Is that the reason that Tom Hanks's hair looks like that? Because he's got all his secrets?
He's got all his secrets, because it's so floofy.
I mean, that's the first thing that you see in this, right? It's like, what is wrong with Tom Hanks's hair?
I didn't think it was that bad, it just...
Oh, come on.
I really didn't. He also is like, he's got a very prominent hairline.
Yes.
So I think he just likes to have a lot of hair to counteract
but I think it's
it.
I think it's supposed to be how this character looks, though.
Yeah, but he like slicks it back and...
Yeah, it's almost like hockey hair. Like he's about to go on the court or on the rink. There's got to be something about Tom Hanks's hair.
Tom Hanks. Gotta talk about Tom Hanks's hair.
Was that British or
I don't know, because that's what you were doing. You went Tom Hanks, and I was like, all right, whatever the fuck Tom Hanks is.
Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks explains his Da Vinci hairdo. One of the first things I thought while watching the first Da Vinci Code trailer was, what's up with Tom... This is from 2006, by the way. What's up with Tom Hanks's wacky hair? I'm about to do my Tom Hanks impression. Tom Hanks toyed with wearing a wig for his new role as the Da Vinci Code hero Robert Langdon, because he feared he wouldn't be able to grow his hair long enough to look like a scholar. The Oscar winner... You have to look like a scholar? You have to have long hair to look like a professor?
A little unkempt because he looks like a professor hair. I think it's professor hair. I'd give him that, yeah.
I will give them that. It does look like unkempt professor hair.
Yeah.
It's not quite Snape level hair.
Right.
But
he's not like always like working on like this crazy project, so he's completely unkempt and it's just like super like floof. But he's more of a like I'm a little laid back, but I'm also working on projects, so if it gets long, that's fine. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm going to go with it. That's what I'm
He even worked with a stylist to come up with the perfect look. He created a mental picture of the character and became obsessed with having the right hairstyle. I wanted it fuller in the back and falling down across my forehead. But the truth is my hair cannot be long and flowing. Genetically, it doesn't do that. In other words, he's 40-some years old at the time of this movie, and it's not going to do that. It's a bush. We talked about a wig, but that ends up taking a huge amount of time. Yeah, what a weird thing to say. It's because he gets curly hair if it goes too long. Tom Hanks always has curly hair.
Floofs and curls, yeah.
So I went to these guys who knew about hair chemistry and found a way. So it was deliberate, apparently. It's very deliberate that Robert Langdon has that hair. I don't know what to think about that. Here's somebody that just tweeted... Watching the Da Vinci Code, Tom Hanks has slightly too much hair. I like that tweet.
I don't know. I don't know. It never bothered me. I mean, I guess it is a little like...
It's because it just doesn't look like Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I mean...
Which is a good thing. You get Tom Hanks, you don't want him to... You want him to look like the character.
Yeah, he's more of a character. I think that's what it is. I think he just has character hair. Tom Hanks
Hello, everyone. Tom Hanks hair, everyone. That's the introduction to this very, very
it's the most important
episode.
Part.
Yeah. I am Kevin.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is Shelf Life, a podcast brought to you by the brother and sister team who always figure out the solution to every cryptex
That's right.
that we have seen. But also, Rachel's thinking very seriously about that. If you come up with the solutions to different cryptexes. But also, what did I say we are? We're a podcast where brother and sister team go through all things from pop culture one at a time to determine whether or not the subject at hand belongs on your shelf, be it digital or physical, and any type of genre that we do. And we do those in very, very long walkthroughs where we go through scene by scene, page by page to dissect everything. And today, Rachel, we are continuing our journey here, and it is appropriate to be a journey, as this is we're going on a quest today.
Today is Rachel. A quest. This is definitely more of a quest.
This is is it a side quest or a main quest? Rachel, what is up for contention to the shelf today?
We are going to be talking about 2006 Da Vinci Code.
Yes, the movie.
That's correct.
The Da Vinci Code.
Yes.
From 2006, directed by Ron Howard, starring Tom Hanks' hair.
Which didn't come out very much after that book was written.
No, and I will get into that.
Okay.
Because, yeah, the book came out in 2003, so they did not take long to make this into a movie.
Not at all.
But it is one of the highest selling books of all time. It's one of the most popular books ever. I think just Harry Potter beat it out in the last like 50 years or something like that. So it's a crazy, crazy popular story.
Yes.
And we're here to tackle it. I feel like this one is a bit forgotten for being based on such a popular book that it just feels like people don't necessarily talk about it. Now, I guess they don't necessarily even talk about the book, and it might just be my circle of people that I know that aren't always into the Da Vinci Code. Rachel, what is the Da Vinci Code about, and what is your history with the movie or the book, if you have any?
I don't remember reading the Da Vinci Code book, so I don't think I've actually read the book before. I do want to. I do think that is on my list of books to read. But the Da Vinci Code, the movie, is about the character
Very
Robert.
different, of course.
Is it? I would assume,
no,
isn't it?
I'm kidding. I have no idea.
I thought it was a little bit. I don't know.
I think it's pretty
that's your
faithful,
part.
but I don't know. Yeah.
It follows the character Robert Langdon. What is he called? What is he? He's
He's a fake profession, actually.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm trying to come up with it. But, like he's a coder. He's like
he's a professor.
decoder.
A professor of
Symbols.
hang on, let me see if I can find him. Yes, a professor, a symbols professor. He teaches religious iconography and the fictional field of symbology. So he is a professor of religious iconography and symbology.
Yeah, so he's that. So he's a professor of symbols. So we follow Robert Langdon, professor of symbols.
I'm a
in religions.
professor of symbols.
He's very
He's
popular.
boring. He's boring Indiana Jones.
Yeah, he's kind of Indiana Jones, but just for symbols. And
Just symbols,
Just
not
symbols.
artifacts. Just symbols.
he gets pulled into the insanity of this religious cultish thing where he now has to decode and protect.
It's a grail quest, so he gets pulled into a quest for the Holy Grail unwittingly.
Oh, yeah. Right, yes.
And has to solve the riddles. I don't really know why he has to solve the riddles, but he keeps being compelled to solve the riddles.
Yeah. Well,
To clear his
it.
name, because he's being framed
his name.
for murder.
He's being framed for murder by accident, and
Yes,
he was
by
accidentally framed for murder
Yes.
by the victim.
I mean, everyone kind of stumbles into,
It's this whole hullabaloo, and he has to decode everything so that he can clear his name and find the Holy Grail. He also just wants to find it at that point. He gets very interested in the story.
Yeah, he gets caught up in it, I suppose, yeah. You didn't read the book. Have you seen this before?
Oh, yeah. I saw this probably when it first came out. I'm trying to remember. I think I saw it in theaters. I didn't go with you, did I?
No, because I have a story about going to see it. Not a story, but like a little. I remember what I did.
So
I don't think you came with.
I remember going to the theater to see this, and I think I went with a group of friends at the time. So it's like one of those times where it's just like, oh, we're going to go to the movies, and then we went and saw the Da Vinci Code. I remember as like a kid going, ooh, puzzles. And I've always liked puzzles. So this was just like one of those things where it's like, ooh, look at all like the puzzles and, decoding and stuff. That was cool.
I agree. I enjoy a good quest with riddles and puzzles and clues, and you have to decode and decipher. That's always a lot of fun.
Very.
That's always something that's fun. It's like Ron Swanson going like, I love riddles. Like I don't love riddles per se, but I do enjoy like the good, like, oh, if you look at the clues and you can try to find, and I mean, you and I have done
escape
kind
rooms?
of the escape rooms and
video games even like that. I mean, I have at
well,
least.
I do have a proposal probably for the end of this where I think this would make a better video game than it does.
It would make
movie.
a fun video game. It could.
These make for good entertainment because either you're following along or you're being interactive with it and you're trying to solve it as well. So I do enjoy a good fetch quest, a grail quest like this. I saw the movie in 2006. We didn't see it the week it came out. I don't remember when we went to see it, but it came out May 21st. So maybe we did see it like the week after it came out. I did not read the book. A couple of my friends read the book. It was during finals, but I remember it being like a random Tuesday night or like midweek. Maybe it was a Wednesday night, and maybe people were kind of done. So it was, do you want to go see the Da Vinci Code? And I don't remember if they were at my house or we were just like playing football in the street or basketball or whatever. And I was like, I'll go see it. So, because at the time, of course, it was like the hugest thing. So we went to go see the Da Vinci Code. And I remember sitting there watching the movie. And I distinctly remember, spoiler alert, folks, when Isaac Newton comes up with the cryptex. And they mentioned that it's a 5-letter word.
Yeah.
I turned to them and I said, is it going to be fucking Apple? And they went, shut up. You're going to ruin the story.
Oh, because they've read it. So they would know.
They read it. And I was like, it cannot be Apple. It
so
really
simple.
cannot be Apple.
It's so simplistic.
So that's what I remember. I don't really remember anything else, but I do remember sitting in the theater being like, it's fucking Apple, isn't it? So outside of that, that was my only experience with the Da Vinci Code movie. Other than seeing it on cable every once in a while and not really sitting there and watching it, I don't think I've watched it in full, in length since then.
Yeah, you did. With me. We owned the DVD, and I remember distinctly watching it. Yes, and yes, we do, and distinctly watching it with you, and we would watch like half or some of it over lunch. It was one of our lunch movies that we did. Yes, distinctly remember this.
I do not remember
because I even remember where you would pause it, and. I really, truly, watching it, I went, oh yeah, this is where Kevin paused it, and said we're going to watch, like, the rest of it, like, the next couple days or whatever, and it was, like, and I knew where it was because it was, like, the halfway point. I distinctly remember it, they do own it. It's on the shelf. It's on the shelf in their house.
Is it? All right.
Yes.
I will, next time I'm at Mom and Dad's.
Text Dad right now.
Next time I'm at Mom and Dad's,
I want him to prove
I will
it.
see if it is there.
It's probably right next to National Treasure, all right? And Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter, all right? It's right there.
In the genre of historical fiction, it's with National Treasure and American Vampire Hunter, whatever. Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
That's right.
American Vampire Hunter would have been a better name for that movie. American Vampire Hunter is a good name for a movie.
It kind of is, actually.
Like, I don't even know what it is, but we could come up with something. You got the title. Like, we could sell the rights to American Vampire Hunter.
Is it still, like, within the history? So it's, like, a part of, like, our old history, like, founding the country? And
it's the same
and they have
thing,
to, like, wipe out the vampires so that we can actually, like, live here?
I'm fine with it also
it's a part
being
of the
set in
Civil War.
revolutionary times, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Or it could be that it's about how the Masons were also vampire hunters.
Oh, yeah.
And then this guy gets
great.
into the Freemasons as a vampire hunter, and he's the last American vampire hunter.
He's the last American vampire hunter.
Mm-hmm. It's basically Blade.
It's basically Blade. Well, but is he also part vampire?
No.
Oh, I like this. This is kind of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll AI that and see what we can come up with the last American vampire hunter.
We haven't done one of those.
It'll be this fall's
it's our Halloween
Halloween special.
I
like
love
Dia de los Muertos.
And the American Vampire Hunter.
See, I would have thought that you could have been confusing this with South Park's version of the Da Vinci Code with the Hair Club for Men, which is one of the best episodes of South Park. You don't remember this episode of South Park, Rachel?
I'd probably have to see part of it to remember it.
It's the episode where the boys accidentally stumble upon the conspiracy theory that the Pope was never supposed to be a person; it was supposed to be a rabbit.
Okay.
And Stan's dad is
the
Hair Club for Men, yeah.
Oh.
And Stan's dad is part of the keepers to keep the secret, and they do the entire scene with Ian McKellen.
But I also remembered everything that you would quote from this movie every time. I was oh yeah, Kevin would quote this. Kevin still quotes this.
See, I don't remember watching it that much.
Let me ask you these questions 3.
The questions 3 for sure.
It was everything that he would say, every line he would say.
I also have never read the book. However, Rachel, I do happen to have I went and got it out. I have the Da Vinci Code.
You own it, but you've never read it.
I've never read it. So the story behind this, I will tell you now, because I don't know when we'll do the Da Vinci Code, the book, if we will. I have this on the list to read. If it ends up being something that's different enough from the movie, we could do it. If it's the same, then who cares? But what happened was,
you know, a top shelf.
I inherited this book from the previous owner of the house. So when I bought my house, the previous owner had...
I remember it?
She was divorced. She had moved to a different part of the country and just left stuff here.
Yeah.
So when I moved in, they were like, oh yeah, we left stuff that might be helpful to the first-time homeowner, like a ladder. And in reality, they just didn't want to haul the shit out of it.
Oh, sure, yeah.
After, call it a year or two, probably more, I had never gone into the attic to see what was in the boxes that she had left in the attic.
Yeah.
There was a reason we had to get up there. There were birds in it or something. So we finally got up to the attic, and there's all these boxes, and we're like, okay, get the boxes down. And there's cookbooks and self-help books. The Da Vinci Code is in there. And then there's also this portrait of a woman.
I remember that. I remember the portrait of the woman.
In, like, a negligee. And I was like, is this the person that lived here? So I didn't know what to do with it, because I couldn't put it, like, by the garbage can, because then everyone would think I was a pervert.
I mean, you just cover it. You put it in a garbage bag.
So I just kept the book.
That's funny.
Hey, I got
That's
you there.
hilarious.
Thank you.
God.
Yeah, so no, I waited for... We have dumpster days in my neighborhood where they'll put these big dumpsters down the streets. And I waited... I waited until like dawn. Like it was like I throw away the negligee painting at dawn. and I went out and I tried to make sure nobody could see what I had in my hands, and then I tossed it over into the dumpster. But I did keep the Da Vinci Code and some
Well,
of
I mean,
the
it's a book. It's not like... Does she have notes in there? Are there any, like, notes or, like...
I don't see any notes or anything like that.
I was always curious.
Book.
Sometimes when you get, like, a book from somebody, if they have, like, all those, like, little writings in the corners or something...
I don't do that with my books.
I don't either, but I've seen people do that.
There's a thing for $5 off of a grocery store that no longer exists. That helps you. So that's fun.
Been up there for a while.
Yeah, probably at least a decade.
Yep.
Maybe she was using this as a bookmark, which means that she got to page
Probably.
25. So she did not make it very far in the book.
That's funny. Or she's rereading. You never know.
One thing that I noticed about this book, guess the over under on the number of pages, Rachel, of the book.
Well, it doesn't
even
look
based on the movie
that long, so I'm gonna say 350.
All
Not
right.
even, maybe 200.
It is 454.
Okay, so it
pages.
is 4. Okay,
I
was close. I said 350.
I'm holding the original. It's the original. What do you call it? Hardcover
Yeah.
version.
Is it like tiny print?
No. Look, see, big print.
Oh, okay.
Like normal print. Yeah.
Oh, so no wonder it's 400 pages.
Yeah. Would you take a guess? Now, we've done Animal Farm, folks, in this volume, if you haven't listened to that episode. It is 10 chapters. It's a short novel. I just told you it's 454 pages. What do you think the number of chapters is in this book?
I've been reading books that are like
pages.
over 1,000 pages. I'm trying to think of like how many.
Which is like the average number that you would think a chapter has.
Let's go like 20.
Yeah, that's a good guess, right? Not including the epilogue.
Oh, good lord.
Which is the ending.
Oh, no.
It has 105 chapters.
What? These are short. Those are short.
They're like 2 or 3 pages. So this is where I was doing some of my usual thing, like looking at the backstory, trying to look at how this stuff got made and things like
That's
that
so
to give
weird.
you backstory. And one of the things I watched was the behind the scenes. It was Dan Brown talking about how he knew as the book got popular that he was going to get offers for a movie for it, and he knew that he was going to do. This is what he claimed in the behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
He knew he was going to do 3 books. He had already done Angels and Demons. Angels and Demons is actually a prequel to Da Vinci Code, which may explain some stuff. Maybe that's why Robert Langdon is called in here to help. Angels and Demons was first, then the Da Vinci Code came out, and because of the Da Vinci Code's popularity, they wanted to buy the rights to the movies from him. And he realized maybe this was just the time to do it, just to get this movie, like, out before, you know, popularity dwindles or something. So he sells the rights to the movie. He was talking about how he was taking a first crack at the screenplay, and they gave it to Eva Goldsmith, who has done really great stuff and really bad stuff. His career is crazy because he's done stuff. Well, I think he's like won Oscars even. He has written A Beautiful Mind, Batman and Robin.
All right.
Cinderella Man.
Okay.
This. Like the Da Vinci Code.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He came up with the story for Transformers The Last Knight.
Okay.
He wrote Insurgent.
Oh.
Winter's Tale.
Huh.
I Am Legend. I, Robot. Lost in Space. A Time to Kill. Batman Forever.
Wow, okay. I know, like, everything he's done.
Yeah, he's a wave. Which is, you know, if you're popular and if you're a good hand, you're going to have that, right? So anyway, he's writing it. He said, I don't know how they're going to condense this book because it's 450 pages, and how are you going to condense this down? There's a lot of lore, there's a lot of crap in here. And they showed it, and the example that Brown gave was, at some point, Langdon says, I think kind of humorously, I need to get to a library. And in the book, they go to a library.
Yeah.
And in the movie, they don't. In the movie, they just do stuff on a bus. While they're
well, he does.
Riding around
he
London.
Goes into the archive of a library.
In order to illustrate this change, while Dan Brown's saying, like, so, you know, they had to do this change because you can't just go to a whole new scene. You have to keep the story and the momentum going in a movie. You can do whatever the hell you want in a book. The pacing isn't as important of a factor. You can do a whole side story, you know, over here or whatever. So they put up on the screen, and they're showing and they're, like, underlining these, like, different changes that were made to this chapter. And it says Chapter 92. And I went, Chapter 92?
Oh my
what
God.
the hell are we talking about? So then I went to find the book, because I was like, Chapter 92? So I'm, like, looking through it, and I'm like, okay, these chapters are all, like, 2 or 3 pages. They're, like,
that's so weird.
Nothing.
That's so weird that he wrote it that way.
Yeah, so I am curious if it just keeps changing perspective, or if he writes it like it is a movie where it can just go to scene to scene to scene to scene.
That's what it seems like it's a scene to scene. But you'd think that there would just be, like, a break in the text. Like, there would just be, like, space, and then he'd continue without having to make a full new chapter?
That's the legacy of this story, I think, in a lot of ways, where... especially online, especially today, almost 20 years after the thing, or 20 years after the book came out, and almost 20 years after the movie came out, if you look online and you look at a lot of the discourse over the movie and the book, people will talk about how stupid it is. And people will talk about how poorly written it is. That's the general consensus of the online literary tycoon community. I've seen people also say, like, it's still fun to read, and it's very accessible, and it may not be the most eloquent prose, but it's still a fun plot to read.
Right.
And it's like people saying, like, you know, you almost have to, like, say, I like it, but it's stupid. And it's like, I've never liked that. Like, yes,
are you talking about, like, the now people? Because the now people, that's what they've been saying about every book, is that they're horrible and they're poorly written, and you shouldn't like this, and this is bad.
Well,
that's what they do about. That's what they say about
like,
everything now. I can't listen to the book cults.
Poorly written things can be difficult to read or understand.
Oh, sure.
I completely understand that. But if it's not, and if you enjoy it, even if it could be spruced up a bit, what is the harm in enjoying that book or that movie or whatever, just because it's not the most intellectual thing? Like, does everybody spend their time reading fucking, you know, prose from Fitzgerald and
I don't think they do.
Ulysses,
I think that people are,
like,
just super judgmental when it comes to, like, everything now. It's super judgy.
Well, I do enjoy being cynical and stuff on the podcast. I'm not going to pretend like I'm some hypocrite that doesn't do that with stuff.
But I
be
like to
snarky.
enjoy things, and I'm going to enjoy things, and they're not going to take that away from me.
Well, anybody can enjoy anything that they want to. I can still be snarky about all of it. But I don't know. I'm just telling you what I've seen is like, this movie got terrible reviews. Audience
Oh,
reviews.
yeah, I remember that, but...
And I really don't know what people think about it that are in the general zeitgeist. Like, yeah, you can see whatever you want online, and you're going to find what you see online because that's the kind of people that are interacting online. But I do kind of wonder, in the general populace, do people have a fond memory of this? Do they not? That's where it's hard to tell. They got Ron Howard, and I think that's what sold Dan Brown on being able to do it, is getting Ron Howard to direct it. Mm-hmm. It's the same sort of thing where today people will tell, like, I remember when, who were the guys that got fired from the Han Solo movie? Lord and Miller, the guys that did the Lego movie.
Okay.
Because they were going to make it into a comedy. And it's like,
This?
you hired the Han Solo movie.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you a story. So they were going to make the Han Solo movie into a comedy. They got fired because Disney didn't want that. And it was like, you hired the guys that made the Lego movie. What the fuck did you think was... And 21 Jump Street. What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
So they hire Ron Howard. And I remember at the time, and even now, like, I don't know what Ron Howard has directed lately to, like, offhand. Mm-hmm. But they all call him... Oh, yeah, he's just such a generic, like, workman director. Like, he doesn't have style. He just comes in, he does the job. Like, he's a very safe director. I don't know if that's true or not. There's style in this. The color gradient, for sure, is toned down, and I think that's the same in Cinderella Man. He, at the time, was doing A Beautiful Mind. He did Cinderella Man. He was doing these award-winning movies, these movies that were in Oscar races and stuff. So he was not this everyman, just work-a-day director that you could just hire to get your shit done as a studio. Mm-hmm. So I think that convinced Dan Brown that they could do this and it would be, a potential hit or whatever, because now you're talking about Ron Howard. They initially were going to get Bill Paxton for the role of Robert Langdon, and then they ended up getting Tom Hanks. I feel like Tom Hanks, no disrespect to the late Bill Paxton, Tom Hanks probably has more screen presence and more of a star presence. Bill Paxton would have been interesting in this role because he would have definitely been more of an everyman, because Tom Hanks takes it over with his star presence.
Well,
if that makes sense.
But I don't think he should be an everyman.
That's fair.
He's like a religious professor. He studies. He's very, like, intellectual.
Yeah,
I don't feel like he's
not
everyman.
really an everyman. Yeah.
That would have been weird. Because then it's like, it's this man who just does crosswords every day or something, like figuring out the Da Vinci Code. That would be a very interesting story, but that's not the story.
He might have been able to pull that off, too, based on some of these clues, but... Now I would have liked. I would have liked it if it was just... That's an SNL sketch from 2006. Is some, like, guy that likes to do the crossword.
That's all I'm thinking.
He keeps solving the puzzle before Robert Langdon does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the sketch.
He's like the night security guard, and he just, like, figured out the puzzle. He goes, isn't this the answer? Like, that's the Fibonacci sequence. And then he just kind of goes, like, blah, 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 blah.
All the puzzles are Sudoku, and like, it's funny because Sudoku, and everyone loves that, ha ha ha, like that kind of thing.
Right.
So the movie and the book both generate all of this backlash from the Catholic Church and religious groups and people. It's blasphemy, right? With the story. The story is blasphemic.
I suppose, yeah.
It's funny because it's like, guys, it's the Da Vinci Code. Does anyone think that this is historical fact? This is the problem. Because it's based on a conspiracy, right?
Sure.
And conspiracies used to be fun. Like, this is like a fun little, like, it's like fun. Like, look at all these little, like, puzzle things that you can see around and everything like that.
Like, yes.
But I do understand, because in today's day and age, as Rachel and I record this podcast, you can't enjoy look at, like, this, like, funny conspiracy thing, because then you'll just be another fucking nutcase. Like, all of the nutcases that believe in all the conspiracy theories.
Like. Yeah.
And you have to just be like...
a fun, I just enjoy conspiracy theories versus they, like, hardcore believe.
They believe it.
And, like, will defend it
Yeah,
with
so
their
you can't even
life.
you can't even look it up without getting on a list. So it's all right, I'm not even I'm dying for another podcast to come around that tells you and explains it and debunks it along the way, for fun.
That sounds fun. I would love that.
That sounds fun because I know there's probably a million of where people got their tinfoil hats on and a microphone and they're uploading it to the internet.
Right.
One of the problems that people have with it is the first page of the book, before the prologue, has the word fact. The Priory of Sion, a European secret society founded in 1099, is a real organization. In 1975, Paris's Bibliothèque Nationale discovered parchments known as Les Dossiers Secrets, identifying numerous members of the Priory of Sion, including Sir Isaac Newton, Botticelli, Victor Hugo, and Leonardo da Vinci. The Vatican prelature, known as Opus Dei, is a deeply devout Catholic sect that has been a topic of recent controversy due to reports of brainwashing, coercion, and a dangerous practice known as a corporal mortification. Opus Dei has just completed construction of a $47 million national headquarters at 243 Lexington Avenue in New York City. All descriptions of artwork, architecture, documents, and secret rituals in this novel are accurate. I don't know if you're supposed to think that that is actually true, or if that's part of the book.
I feel like that's a part of the book.
But I do see where people could have thought, okay, people are going to think that this is real because people are fucking stupid. So now you have to deal with that if you're super religious or something like that. Now, if somebody reads this and it changes their mind, they really weren't that into it, right? Because
I don't know. Maybe somebody
Let me tell you,
devout could look at this and be like, huh, it's going to be a different perspective on how, religion views women. And they immediately change their views.
That's different than disavowing Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So the Priory of Sion, Rachel, since the book wants to call it fact, I figured I'll just give you this little moment here. Let me tell you a little bit about a man named Pierre Plantal de Saint Clair, who founded the Priory of Sion in 1956.
Okay.
So Dan Brown went around a lot promoting the book and talking about how the Priory of Sion is a real thing and it's from all these places. And Sir Isaac Newton might have been a part of it and Da Vinci was a part of it. And all of this stuff is real and all these facts are real. The reality is more that he was a con man from French in 1950s who started this thing not to try to pass himself off as the heir to Jesus Christ, which he in fact said he was not. He was trying to pass himself off as a Merovingian descendant. A couple of people ran with this Priory of Sion thing. They added Mary Magdalene and Jesus to it. Pierre Plantard even came out and was like, no. This is not real. This is fake. But,
oh my God.
but as things do,
right,
it just becomes this myth and this legend. So just a little bit of an interesting fact there. But all of the hype that was around this book, so then there was, of course, an enormous hype around the movie with Ron Howard and Tom Hanks being involved. And then all of the backlash that became involved. The Catholic Church denounced it. There were protests. There were boycotts. A ton of things going on. Opus Dei said they would not openly boycott it because they wanted people to...
kind of draw their own conclusions type of thing.
We haven't tackled any big topics or controversial things at all this season, talking about politics with Animal Farm. So now we figured let's talk about religion with the Da Vinci Code. So Rachel and I will come from it from the perspective of being some of the Pope's chosen children here, raised straight Catholic. And I think, I think we could say I probably know or I'm a little bit more into the weeds of the weird Catholicism, the different books and stuff. But you like all the Rachel's as
stories.
We've said, Rachel loves the stories, loves the myths, loves the conspiracies of Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster and all that kind of shit. So if you've got any religiosity conspiracy theories, Rachel, I've read all the stuff about how there's all the apostles actually wrote books and stuff like that.
I knew that one. I know that one where everybody has their own books, but they're hiding
Mary had her
others.
own.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, even Mary has one, but she wasn't allowed to because she's a woman.
Yeah, no, all of that would be interesting, and I do think that all of that would make interesting stories. You'd get called blasphemer, and it would, I'm sure, cause a lot of problems. But we'll get into it in the walkthrough, because at the end of the day, this movie does have a very positive message, in my opinion, about religion.
Kind of. So
I don't disagree.
think it definitely
I'm not
shows
saying
that part
well.
as
There's
well.
okay. I will rephrase my statement. I think it has a very positive message about faith, and in particular about Christianity is a faith, not as a organized religion.
Yes.
I'll explain myself.
Okay.
There's my teaser for the end of the podcast. Rachel, anything else that we want to talk about before we hit the break?
I don't know.
Fantastic. We'll talk about the Hans Zimmer score. We'll talk about the rest of it. Yes, get ready for puzzles. Make sure go get your
again? Get the flip out of here. I love Hans Zimmer.
When we come back after a short break, we will get right into the Da Vinci Code.
The Catholic Church. We've made a few changes.
These Super Bowl commercials are weird.
And we're back with the Da Vinci Code here at Volume 4 of Shelf Life. Rachel, are you ready to go through and solve some puzzles?
I am thoroughly prepared.
Do you have a notepad and paper if we need to write anything down to come back to in order to solve the puzzles?
Obviously. Of course I do.
Okay. That's very important, because for one thing, Robert Langdon and Sophie did not have a pad of paper and pencil, and I was very, very nervous that they were going to forget something, because I would have forgotten like half of it.
It's true.
Although, we end up finding out, too, that Langdon has almost like a photographic memory.
He
so
does.
I guess that helps.
Yeah, it kind of... I mean, at one point he does write stuff down. So, I mean, he is trying to do that.
He?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure when he's doing the anagram, he's writing words with the anagram.
Oh, I think you're right. I was going to mention, I forgot to mention this. There were a ton of different reports on it. Good Morning America, The Today Show. There was some guy that claims to be a descendant of the actual keepers of the Holy Grail.
Of course.
Like the cup.
Mm-hmm.
And he described the movie and book thusly.
Oh, God.
He said it is brilliantly plotted, terribly written, and utter buffoonery. Or utter nonsense. I can't remember which word he used. Some sort of British slang. So there you go. So if we get to the end and I say that it is brilliantly plotted, terribly written, and utter baloney or whatever.
I like
buffoonery. I like buffoonery. Yeah, let's go with buffoonery. I'm stealing it from that guy, whoever that guy was.
I think that's fine. That's fair.
A ton of production logos here. Almost a minute of just production logos. It's kind of crazy how many production logos
there are. There's so much happening.
You hear a bit of that Hans Zimmer score starting. It's a terrific little piece of music. We'll talk about it more probably at the end of the movie. Almost mellow version of a Hans Zimmer score as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then the credits come, and that takes a little bit of time, and we finally get to the title card. And the A and the V are just the male and female symbol. Mm-hmm.
The chalice. And the... What was the other one called?
The blade.
Oh, the blade!
Yeah.
Gross. Everything's phallic.
Yep. And a man is jogging, or at least kind of pacing himself through this museum. He's looking back the entire time. So we see a bunch of paintings, and then we see him continuously look back and over his shoulder. And we see a hooded figure following him. More at a walking pace, though, than an actual...
Yeah, it's like
running after him.
You know, you got the bad guy slowly walking, meandering, and the victim is running.
We need to try this one day. We need to have someone not even at a full run, not at like a sprint, like trying to get away. Like, let's just say they sprained their ankle and they're like kind of hopping away versus
Yes.
somebody stalking to them, and see how long it would take
Like,
for the
can you get
person to
to
be like
the front
totally
door
out of
and
yeah
lock the door before they get to you, type of deal.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you could.
It's such a weird cliche in movies. I mean, it's done to build tension,
Of
but it,
course.
but
I
almost
always
pulls you
wonder.
out.
I kind of assume, when the camera's on the bad guy, he's walking menacingly, and then when the camera goes away, he just starts running as fast
That's
as he
got to
can.
be a joke in something, right? Like Scary Movie or something.
It has
where
to be, or some
The
cartoon.
man stops. Yeah, something. The man stops and starts removing a painting from the wall. And, folks, we don't know where we're at yet, but it's museum
A
paintings.
museum
so there's
painting.
giant frames around them, super, super
You'd have to,
strong
like-
and super, super heavy.
You'd have to key something so that alarm doesn't come off.
But he wants the alarm to go
Oh,
off.
that's
See,
true.
that's part of the
Oh,
plan.
fair.
He's pulling the painting out so that the security door falls, so that it prevents the guy from coming
Ah,
after him.
right. Yes. Okay.
So it's actually a decent
Yeah, well,
plan.
then it's a good idea. Good job.
We find out that the hooded man is albino, pale-skinned with white hair.
Yes.
He doesn't have what I always thought comes with the albino vestige of like the bright eyes, though.
You can
Isn't
have
that, like,
bright
the
eyes, but I
cliche?
think you can also have no color in your irises as well, which I think is what his are. Or does he have dark eyes? I can't remember now.
I thought he just has like brown eyes.
Oh, maybe
I don't remember.
maybe a pale bluish tone.
Okay. One thing to keep in mind about this entire movie, for whatever reason, and I think Ron Howard probably does do, maybe he still does this in his movies, come to think of it, he tones the color gradient down, or he shadows everything.
Sure.
Everything is
Lots
kind of
of
dark.
extreme shadows.
Just a lot of dark. There's almost like a gray in front of everything.
Yeah.
Which, for a Grail quest, makes it seem a lot more dour than it might be, but maybe it's also supposed to be like this holy, somber tone to it? I don't know.
I think it's just a way to add more drama. You have those sharp, dark shadows. You have this dramatic lighting coming from specific spots and only lighting certain things, and then you have that grainy kind of tone on top of it. I feel like that just adds all to the drama.
All right, that's fair. I mean, yeah, there's got to be someone that knows more about film language than me can probably explain what Ron Howard is doing and why he's doing it, but there is definitely some sort of discoloration. There's some sort of strange discoloration.
Almost like a sepia. It's a very minor
Yeah, not
sepia.
a sepia, but yeah.
Well,
some sort of... So it's drained of
it's like
its
a filter.
color. Yeah, exactly.
But I'm saying
they
a sepia filter. Instead of it being gray, because you're saying black and white, I'm thinking more of a sepia tone on top. With that
it's
kind
almost
of a
like
filter.
they took that,
brown.
It's almost like they took if you work with a laptop and you have one of those privacy filters on, it's almost
One of
like
the
they
privacy
put that in
screens.
front.
A big
Yeah.
old just vignette of darkness.
Yeah, you put which I don't know. Hey, folks at home, you could argue that that's because you're looking through the clues, so you don't want anybody else to see it. So you have to put
God.
your privacy screen on. The albino, no, we learn his name is Silas at one point.
Yes.
So most of the time in my notes, I'll probably just refer to him as the albino, but it
Call
also
him a
Silas.
monk.
If you hear that,
The monk.
Rachel will call him the monk.
I think I will. Monk.
Oh, monk, I need you to kill all these prior scion members.
Monk?
Monk. Yeah, well, monk whips himself every time he needs to wash his hands. Whips himself a lot. Monk! Paul Bettany playing Silas here.
Yes.
You know him, Rachel, best
As-
as Vision.
I also
of
know
course.
him from A Knight's Tale.
Okay.
Yes, I know
There
him
you
as
go.
both. I know him as a few characters. Thank you. How dare
Yes,
you?
but of course, Paul Bettany.
You
Paul
assume I
Bettany
don't
who-
know a lot of actors, but I do. So there.
Well, well, I've got a whole catalog of crap to point to say whether or not you know a lot of actors, Rachel.
That's mean.
So the man stops and starts moving a painting. The albino says, your brethren possess what isn't yours. And we find out that Silas he speaks Spanish at some points in this.
Yes,
And,
he speaks
and
multiple
the curator
languages.
Yes, but I think mostly he's a Spanish monk, or whatever you want to call him.
Sure.
The curator of the museum, we end up learning that this is the Louvre, so this is a Frenchman.
Yes.
He says, your brethren possess what isn't yours. And he says, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he goes, is it the secret you will die for? He goes to kill him, which, why didn't the curator man keep going? You have the door down. You have him stuck.
It's a good
And it would have
point.
tripped the security.
I guess maybe he's trying to figure out the motive. But I mean, you kind of know the motive. You are the motive, so...
Yeah. Like, the guy's clearly... He knows who you are. So
Sure.
it's not like you have him locked in that room, because it would have brought down all the security doors.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's for our sake. He knows. He's breaking the
Yes.
fourth wall. He knows we're watching. He's like, let's give him some dialogue.
Folks, we need to start a narrative so that we can have this movie. I don't know what accent that was,
I
but
don't
whatever.
know, because it wasn't... I mean, it could have... And I don't know. It could have been French, I guess.
We all know that I enjoy making fun of the French. He goes to kill him, and the curator says, wait. And we go to the top of the museum, and we can't hear anything but mumbles. Except for if you turn on the captions, you do see what they were saying. I think that's almost a cheat, because clearly you're not supposed to fully understand what they're saying, because it mumbles when you go to the ceiling.
Sure.
But he does say something about the bloodline or the keystone. He
And
says
the
some
rose line,
clue.
and it's beneath
the
the
rose
rose.
line. Yeah,
Beneath
yeah.
the rose.
The albino shoots the curator in the gut
Yes,
and hobbles away.
that's right.
And if you would have just shot him in the head, none of this would have.
I mean,
been
it
a
was
problem.
from far away, and he's a monk. You know, he was probably just given a gun.
He gave him a gun so that he could shoot all these damn Priory Scion members. I mean, now you're just making me wish that Ted Levine was the bishop and not
mean-
Alfred Molina.
Either way, I would be happy.
Oh
so-
yeah, scusi.
Scusi.
Me, bishop here in Rome.
My God.
Meanwhile, Tom Hanks' haircut is going to a talk on stage, and we find... I'm not going to let it go.
You're never gonna let it go.
And we
Symbols
intercut
professor.
between... Yes, he's a professor of symbols, which is what I would like to be. I want to
Honestly,
become
I
a
would
symbol
love it.
professor.
If I could study symbols and then that's all I do, it'd be kind of fun. Especially if they're gonna pay me a shitload of money. I'll take
Feels
it.
like it feels like after you become a professor of symbols, you could make a lot of money consulting for
Yes.
corporations.
Yeah.
And helping make their logos, because you can be like, yes, you see, if you accent the swoosh Amazon, it will look more like a smiley face.
Now you have the
Now-
chalice symbol, in which
Yes.
you want women
very
to come join you, so you want to make
feminine.
sure it has that feminine symbol within there. But you can always add a phallic right there. It's fine.
Wonderful. We'll give you. Yeah, tell you what, here we're gonna give you $2 million for that. That's brilliant idea. Yeah, for another $500,000, I'll make your website's main logo.
Yep.
So this is happening at the same time. The curator gets up, and he's dying, and he starts doing something, but we can't really tell what he's doing.
His blood all over
Hanks-
his hand.
Hank's, well, because he's bleeding to death.
I'm just saying,
Hank
you can see his hand, so you know he's doing something. He's got like a pen or something in his hand.
What the? Okay, I was gonna ask this later, but we find out that he puts a bunch of stuff in disappearing ink or invisible ink or something. Something you have to put
yes,
a
he
black
does.
light on.
That's right.
the hell's
He
he
just has
doing
it
that
on him.
with?
You know he just has it on him. He's ready.
Okay.
He's ready to just put little mysterious codes all over this museum. He works there.
Monk to walk in.
I bet if you just put a black light on that entire place, he has written codes everywhere. They're just everywhere because he's just having fun now at this point in his life.
We found one code over here. We find one code over there. What is that, officer?
Just turn the black lights on. They're like, Jesus
no,
Christ,
that's
he's written on the
either-
ceiling.
No, it's actually either blood or semen, but we are too afraid to check.
Oh.
Hanks starts quizzing the crowd on what different symbols mean to them, and then tells them that it means different things in different places.
Which is true. That's actually a true thing in real life.
It's such a simple, elementary version of what his class would be on, though, it seems like. Just as an example.
Yeah, but he's just doing a talk in France. I don't think he's, like, teaching, like, a in-depth course. No. This is supposed to be, like, surface level.
I agree. He's just trying to get interaction from the crowd. But he gives you, like, the big one. Like, first of all,
he does give you big
first picture
ones.
He shows is the, maybe not the first picture, but the three that I can remember. The one is the Ku Klux Klan. Yes. And it's not the Ku Klux Klan, it's actually Spanish priests.
Right.
But the blown up picture version wouldn't have given anybody. It still looks like the Klan.
Yes, I agree. The Poseidon one was weird.
Why
did nobody say Poseidon? Nobody says it.
Nobody says Poseidon, and it looks just like Poseidon's trident.
Yeah,
it looks
that one wasn't even like a trick question. He's like, "You're all idiots." What was that? The devil's pitchfork, my ass.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
So there's just a bunch of dum-dums.
Yeah, but they were overtly excited to answer this man. They were just like, "It's the pitchfork. Oh, it's this. Ho, ho!" Yes. Like they were so excited to answer this man.
Yeah, like, oh, we're going to go listen to Robert Langdon talk. It's the greatest thing ever. We're going to go listen to this Doctor of Symbology talk. And then,
honestly, I probably would enjoy the talk like this.
I would enjoy the talk, but I'm just saying, do you know what this is?
The highlight of my week right there.
Do you know what this really is? This is 1 week in his world history class is talking about how symbols can be manipulated to mean different things.
True.
That's 1 or 2 lectures.
That's right.
In his world history class.
Yes.
And then we're moving on. The fact that he teaches an entire semester of this is outrageous.
I love it.
You kids that are in college,
he's just
you're paying so much money to learn this. And of course, then he does the swastika one, which I think is a famous one where it was a symbol of good luck to the Mayans or the Incas, one of the two. And then the Germans co-opted it.
Oh, yeah.
Or the Nazis co-opted it.
Yeah, that one was in a lot of different cultures.
Yeah.
Where it was like turned and actually like shaped.
Yeah, they turned it.
Yes.
Which is actually kind of ironic because it's like, oh, they turned it, so like they literally like, turned the symbol of good luck and then
into
make
something
evil.
Yeah.
I was like trying to find stuff on the internet and I saw like somebody commented like, how has the one frame of Tom Hanks standing in front of a swastika
oh my God.
in front of a podium not become some sort of
that
meme?
Would be hilarious, honestly. The worst part of this, though, is that he just starts flashing things on the screen.
Yeah, he's got this whole, like, video.
Fast.
Like, what TA put this together for him?
Nauseating.
Trying to figure out, according to him, what symbolism versus the truth is, and how we look at things and how things have changed over time.
Like, I'm assuming he's trying to get to the root of each symbol, almost. Because that's the truth in his mind, is the root, right?
In his mind, I guess. But, well, I guess, like, you have to understand what these symbols mean to be able to uncover things in the past.
And what they mean, and, like, what they mean to represent, and understand, like, different cultures and all of that kind of stuff.
But that's why
I guess he's also, like, a linguist. He should have just been a linguist.
Yes! He should have been an archaeologist, a linguist, a historian,
because it all would have been a part of it, but why'd you have to make him, the professor of symbols? Like, I get it.
He's, like, very specific, like,
it's a little odd.
Folks, hang on, we're not gonna make you think here. He's a symbols professor.
He's specifically symbols.
Do you get it?
I guess he is a historian, and then he specializes in symbols. So maybe that's just all it is.
He's a doctor and historian, but he specializes in symbology.
Correct.
Like
he's got all those letters after his name.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And there's like one of them just is a symbol to represent that he's a symbol person.
That he is a symbol.
That's right.
So he's, I did a lot. I actually did my dissertation on the artist formerly known as Prince's symbol.
Oh my God.
I had to do a lot of research on Minnesotan rock stars from the 80s. It was an excellent treat. I actually got a letter from Prince afterward. He said I did him a great service, and it was wonderful. A cop comes by. So he's signing books. He's signing books.
Wait, what is Prince's symbol? The feminine symbol in there, the circle with the 2 lines, is the female symbol.
If we had Robert Langdon, I could maybe help you.
Oh, it's a love symbol according to him. It's a mashup of the gender symbols for both man and woman.
Oh, there you go.
That's what he said. Aha.
Great. I'm glad that we got to the bottom of that.
And
we did not
I never knew that.
And Rachel does not have her doctorate in symbology.
Damn straight.
So we didn't even need it.
You know what? Now I feel like they should just give one to me.
I do too.
I deserve it.
Yeah, you should get an honorary degree.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just start calling me Dr. Rachel.
Dr. Rachel, symbologist.
That's right. Just put a little symbol.
So he is signing books because he's made this book, and I guess this is almost like a book tour to stop.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Doing this speech.
Might as well do multiple things.
A cop comes up to him, and he says, "I'm kind of a French FBI." He just hands him a crime scene photo in front of all these people that are in line.
There's people behind
him. It's clearly a dead body, and Hanks is like.
I mean, he even tries to hide it. He's just like, "What the fuck? Why did you just give this to me? What is wrong with you?"
Little decorum, please. Here, El Capitan.
Nah, they're French.
This guy's
name is. They're French. They're just like, look at this. Look right now.
Look at the photo. Look at how ugly it is. This man's penis is out in front of the world here. He made himself.
They're French. They don't
It's
care.
That's actually true.
They have a bunch
That's
of...
a good point.
Look, it's in the Louvre. The body is beautiful. It's all art, right?
Body is beautiful.
Damn
Not
straight.
the male body.
No, the feminine bodies are way more interesting to look at.
Well, that's because the male body, as Elaine Bennis has once brilliantly put it, is utilitarian. It's for getting around. It's like a Jeep.
That's true. I like it.
Koye is the name of this character.
I was going to say,
here.
he has to have a name because he's in the entire movie.
That doesn't mean he has to have a name, but he does have a name. They found Langdon's name in the daily planner of the curator, Saunier. What's the curator's name?
I'm looking. Give me a second.
There's too many damned Jacques Saunier.
Jacques Saunier.
So he was Saunier, whatever.
So I think you can say Saunier. It's fine. I'm just saying. I think there's a little R in there. So I don't know if it's like
there is an R.
Or if it's like, A and then you don't say the R. I don't know. Look, it's been a very long time since I studied French. All right, so I don't remember
our French
everything.
Listeners.
It's been too long.
Anyway, Langdon was supposed to meet the curator for coffee or drinks or something, but he never showed. And they're like, "Yeah, we found your name in his daily planner, so we were just trying to figure out if you could maybe help us. This guy, what could have happened to him."
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Well, who would have done this to him?" And he goes, "Well, he was shot, but he did this to himself, and we don't see what he did yet."
Right.
Meanwhile, the albino is on the phone with someone. He calls the teacher,
yes,
saying all 4 are dead, and they all confirm the clue. It is here in Paris, beneath the rose in Saint-Sulpice. In one of the more famous scenes, I think, of the movie, self-flagellates.
It's so long.
It's almost excessive.
It's so excessively long of watching him whip himself and yell and watch his toes curl, and there's so much happening. I'm like, this is unnecessary. But I do remember that vividly. It's
very much supposed to be so that it sticks with you, and you see the amount of pain that he puts himself through. And I think he does this because when he sins, he puts himself through the pain that Christ felt in the crucifixion as a way to redeem himself or punish himself or something like that. So every time he kills
penance?
one
is
of
that
these
the
people,
word?
Yeah, it's penance. It's a way of penance.
And he has that. He's got the thing around his leg that's stabbing him.
What
with...
is
it's
that?
It's like a thorn thing. I think it's supposed to be thorns.
Oh, so the thorns. Okay.
Yes.
You should put one around his head. If he was a badass, put it around your fucking head.
Oof, it's awful. It's so disgusting.
And they do a pretty gnarly job of pulling it out of his leg.
He must have had some fake skin on there so that it actually would look like it's coming out of his skin, unless he is like truly doing this to his leg, which
I
it
don't think
looks
so.
like, and it's
Well,
horrifying.
He,
Horrific.
according to the IMDb Tribune trivia, he did whip himself, so they weren't able to do a lot of takes of this because Paul Bettany insisted on whipping himself.
See what I mean?
Come on,
That's
Paul
insane.
Bettany, like
You don't
why?
need to do that. It's
So
unnecessary.
the shot of him curling his feet is because he actually curled his feet when he whipped himself. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
I mean, he is a weird actor.
I don't think he would have allowed. I don't think
hope
Ron Howard
to
would have
hell he
allowed him to
didn't.
put the thorn thing into his leg. I think that's just fake. The sound mix, though, on the pulling of the thorn thing out is pretty good because it's like you hear it being pulling out, like coming out of his leg.
I hate
But it does seem a little excessive, even though it does give you the idea that this man is crazy.
Oh yeah, sure.
An
extremist.
I said he'll be your creepy zealot for the movie.
Yep.
So enjoy.
Yes, absolutely. Have fun.
once we get past that scene, we get to Captain Franche. Captain
Planet.
Captain Planet. I think he's Captain Planet. Foch. Captain Bezu Foch.
Yes, Foch.
Foch.
Isn't it just Foch?
It is Foch,
Okay.
yes.
Foch.
Whatever.
Like Foch sounds like
Foster's
Fouche.
Australian for beer.
Beer.
Captain Foch. It's played by Jean Reno,
Yes,
who's in a bunch of stuff as your token Frenchman.
that's right. He
But,
tends to
yeah.
do that, doesn't he? He's always the token Frenchman.
I think the first thing I ever saw him in was Godzilla from 1998.
Oh my god, that's true.
Clearly his best role.
Fun fact, for comic book day, to get an extra comic, I had to give my favorite Godzilla movie, so I said the really bad one from 1998. And she started laughing.
That's my favorite is that really bad one from 1998.
It's the only one that I could think of.
On the list, by the way, folks. We are gonna
It
cover
definitely
that
is on the
movie.
list.
They meet Tom Hanks Langdon at the Louvre Pyramid, and he points out as they go inside the pyramid, completely out of nowhere, but it comes back to play later in the movie, so it's almost like a setup for the audience. He's like, "Oh, look at those pyramids! They're geometric
Do you
echoes
think he was
of
doing
each
with
other."
other stuff too? Yeah, he's just like, oh, that's the geometric echo, and the guy's like, that's great.
Yeah, that is Jean Reno's response. I wonder if in the book he does it a few more times. So like,
that's
and
one of
look
my
at that.
guesses.
Like,
He's like,
there's a
oh,
lot
and
of
that's this,
symbols.
and then that's this, and he's like, oh, and if you look here, and he's like, I don't care, dude, I live here, like,
And he doesn't like it. Like he talks about how he doesn't
he's like,
like.
you want
the
to see this
pyramid.
ugly pyramid that's in the middle of our city? And he's just like, yeah, it's gorgeous, and he's like,
I didn't remember what this guy's role was in the movie, and I was like, oh, is he gonna be a member of the Priory? Is he gonna be a secret keeper? And that's why he's like dismissive of everything that Tom Hanks points out.
because he's
of,
like, of
oh,
course
yeah,
I
yeah,
know
whatever.
this,
Because
but
he knows what it really means, and he's like, yeah.
right.
That's not where it goes, but I could
No.
have seen it going that direction.
That would have been interesting. That would have been really interesting if he was like that far into it that he's just like on top of things. Like he's actually a cop and he's gonna be, a part of the order.
It might be because I was thinking of Harvey Keitel's role in National Treasure, where that is what he is. He's the FBI agent, but he is a keeper of the secret at the same time. He's a mason or whatever. So I guess I'm mixing those roles in my head when I thought that. So they ask Langdon some questions here. He doesn't know why he's there, and he's surprised that the curator even contacted him. He's like, didn't really know him that well or anything, and he doesn't know why he would have wanted to contact him. And they have to go into an elevator to get down to the floor where they need to see the body. He's clearly claustrophobic. It's very obvious.
At first,
that
I
he's
was like, I
claustrophobic.
couldn't remember if he was claustrophobic or if he was just like afraid of elevators. Because he was just like, can we not take the elevator? And I was like, why does this ass? Like, you can tell the man is uncomfortable, but I think he also wants him uncomfortable. And
Yeah, he's trying because he thinks he did it.
right. Spoiler alert. He thinks he did it. But I think that's why he's like, good, he is uncomfortable in here. That's even better for me then. Like,
Right.
but at the same time, I'm just like, why would you just let him take the damn stairs? Like, I know it's multiple, like, floors up
Here
or
in
whatever.
France, we do not have stairs, only escalator or elevator.
Then the escalator it is.
The escalator is out of service. Please step in. So
They're stairs. They're stairs.
there are apparently, and I don't know if this was like a production design thing or direction thing, there are apparently some little Easter eggy art things around. In the behind the scenes they show, there's like a feature that shows that there's a painting of the boy in the well or something like that in the foreground or like off to the side in this scene when he looks at the elevator, which of course is what we learn is the reason that he is claustrophobic. So there you go.
I see Caravaggio.
So it's like a little...
Caravaggio?
Yeah, and it's
that the one?
Caravaggio's painting of the boy in the well or something like that.
Oh, that's also the one where there's the woman who's cutting off the man's head. It's the same artist.
I don't know what that has to do with anything.
This man does very violent paintings, is all I'm saying. There's like some very violent paintings, I would say.
Quick cuts as he focuses on symbols as they go down the elevator, because I would almost bet that this was a way that he learned to cope with his experience, and that might be why he's become so obsessed with symbols, because he like focuses in on little details so that he takes his mind off of being claustrophobic.
Right. He starts like reading things, he's probably counting stuff, he's like grounding himself by using his knowledge.
And forgetting what the plot was, I wrote, he almost seems suspicious of Langdon for some reason. Because I didn't remember the plot.
But that's good. I'm glad you forgot the plot, and now you're also looking for things.
Well, I remembered quite a bit. I did not remember this whole murder thing. They come across the body. I think he is the not the Peruvian man.
The Vitruvian.
Petruvian man, thank you.
Vitruvian, like with a V.
Vitruvian?
Vitruvian.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the Vitruvian man. So he's put himself into the Vitruvian man position. And the cops thought that he put himself in the position of a pentagram.
Right, because he's got like the star on his chest.
Meanwhile, Opus Dei is being interviewed on a plane, and we get Alfred Molina. Alfred Molina as the bishop in this movie. The bishop's name is Manuel Aringarosa. I'm going to call him Bishop Octopus or Alfred Molina.
Yeah, I like Bishop Octopus. That's my favorite.
They're on this private jet, and I think this is supposed to be Dan Brown being like, look at Opus Dei, they have all this money, like the regular Catholic Church doesn't. I don't know if Dan Brown's Catholic or what, but what's happening is there's a guy who's clearly like an assistant who is prepping Alfred Molina to be in an interview where they're questioning all of Opus Dei's stuff and the fact that they opened up this $47 million church in New York and all this kind of thing. A very famous line that's said multiple times throughout our shelf life journey and or will, and it's said in the first episode of this volume 4, people fear what they don't understand. So we get it here in the Da Vinci Code of all things.
I didn't even realize that.
I don't know if Opus Dei should get a people fear what they don't understand. You're just a hyper-conservative version of Catholic Church. Evangelicalism without the southern priestly charm, I guess.
Yeah.
So he gets a phone call, and he gets it from somebody speaking Latin to him, and he's apparently giving him some sort of money. So we find out that...
This is also teacher.
Do we know that? Does he say it's teacher yet? Do we learn that?
He says, I'll get you the money, teacher, I believe.
Oh, okay. All right. So now we know that there's a connection then between Albino and Alfred Molina Bishop. The curator...
I will have your money tonight, teacher. That's what he says. Sorry, I had to make sure. Go on.
So Langdon explains that the pentagram is... Or pentacle? Why did I write pentacle? Is that right? Is that what he says?
It is a pentacle. He calls it a pentacle.
Okay, it's not a pentagram.
Because the pentagram would have the circle and the symbol. It was just the star symbol. So it's a pentacle, not the pentagram.
And Captain Foch thinks that it is a pentagram, but that's when Langdon's like, no. This is a symbol of Venus.
It's a pagan religious icon.
Not a devil. And there's a phrase in ink, and he says, like, oh, well, like, what do you think that he'd be doing all this for? And Langdon goes, well, if it was me, I'd be trying to identify who my killer was. And the captain's like, exactly. So this woman comes in, And she's a detective, and all the stuff that was written in ink is like a bunch of numbers, and she's like, they are Fibonacci numbers. And we find out that she's a cryptologist with the police department.
Yes. Now that sounds fun. I would do that.
Yes, a cryptologist seems like a good job. If we have any cryptologists out there, please let us know if it's enjoyable. It's fun. I'm sure it's not fun because you have to deal with like serial killers and shit, but it seems like it'd be fun.
Well, that also could be fascinating, though.
I'm sure it's fascinating, but I'm sure it's also fucked up.
Of course.
But, okay. If they believe that he did this, that Robert Langdon killed the curator, one, why? And two...
I think that's what they're trying to find out.
Why would they let him by the crime scene, where he could easily, like, mess with the crime scene?
I mean, the thing is that he messed with the crime scene, so I don't know.
I guess that's true. These are some corrupt French police officers here.
I feel like it's just his way of seeing, like, okay, what is he gonna do if I bring him to the crime scene? How's he gonna act or react to different stuff?
But if you're Robert Langdon, it's almost like you should almost like trip onto the body and be like, whoa!
Right.
It's like, oh, now all my DNA is on him because I tripped on him.
Right.
You know?
I mean, maybe that's what he was expecting. Like, don't touch anything. He didn't have to say don't touch anything because he's not touching anything.
That's true. She says that she got a call from the United States Embassy, and it's a number for Robert Langdon to call, and she was told a message for him, and she was told to come deliver a message to him. And so he calls the number, and it's her phone, her being Sophie. We end up learning that this lady's name is Sophie.
Right.
Sophie Nevi, or something like that. And
I don't even know what you just
said. Is it not Nevi?
Nevo?
Yeah.
Nevu? I don't remember I don't remember which way you pronounce that one, but it is like Sophie Nevu.
Tom Hanks is like, I don't think that this is right. I think that you gave me the wrong number. He's like, no,
just put in the
put in the
number.
code. Shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up and listen to the thing, idiot.
Because it actually goes into her voicemail.
Yes, where she's giving him a message that they're about to be in grave danger, and that Faish thinks that he's the one that killed Sunier and all this stuff.
Right.
It does play like it plays like a pretty good mystery, like at the start of a mystery dinner.
Right.
Kind of.
Yeah.
A nun gets a call. Someone is asking to be let into the church.
Yes.
A bishop of Opus Dei is requesting that this person be let into the church. And she's like, now? It's like, I don't know what time it is
like
because there's no concept
late.
of time. But now?
Like, can't we do this tomorrow? It can't be.
Hold on. I question it because I thought for a second this entire movie was going to take place over one night. It takes place over one day, one night through the next day. Question here, what time is it supposed to be? Because a lot happens. So I'm thinking it's almost like 7 o'clock at night. Because he was signing books. He gave a lecture and he was signing books. So I'm thinking it's like 9 o'clock. Tops.
Maybe. Yeah, it probably
but
is.
for a nun,
France,
that's pretty late.
So it could be late.
Oh yes, the French notoriously stay up late. Do they? Are they like the Spaniards that they eat dinner at like 10 p.m.?
Everybody in Europe. Look, I don't know. But I'm going to make this
Europeans,
whole thing.
Please let us know.
I feel
Rachel's
like
about to make a generalization about your continent.
Where if it's just anywhere
Tread
but
lightly,
the US,
Rachel.
I feel like they're all like, let's hang out and we eat for hours and we drink for hours.
Smoke cigarettes.
And it's just, yeah, I think it's just a very like everything is like done in a very long form. Like it's not very quick. It's
and us Americans need to get back
out.
to fucking work to keep this world running. God damn it. So they act like Opus Dei is some sort of Illuminati within the church here. Even the way the nun reacts to the fact that this person is going to be Opus Dei, she's like, ooh, like she gets like a shiver, which we find out why later. But
yes,
Ron Howard uses some zoom arounds here to go around the body and around Robert Langdon. It was making me nauseous. He asks if the Fibonacci numbers are meaningless because they don't seem to go together. They're just random numbers. And he doesn't quite understand why they're just all there. Mm-hmm. And you get a sense that the cop is like trying to pry something out of Langdon, and he's like, can I just like go splash some water in my face and I'll come right back?
Yeah, like this is just a lot. Like...
Yeah, there's a dead body on the ground. Like give me a minute. He actually does go and splash the water.
He says his excuse was that he lost a friend back in the States and he needs to leave.
Oh, right. Yes.
And now he was just given news that like shocked him, and he's like, I just need to go like collect myself.
Yeah. So you showed me a dead body. My friend's that was
dead.
Been murdered. Yeah. So like, can you just? Well, I don't know if he said his friend's dead. I think he said like there was an accident or something.
Maybe he does just say it's an accident. Well, it's still a friend. I would assume he's dead, or hurt or injured or something. And now you show me a dead body, and this happened. There's too much coincidence. I'm distraught.
Sophie, I'm distraught. Sophie is moaning Myrtle, I guess, in this scene. He actually does do the splash your water in the face. Rachel, I will ask you, as has been posited by How Did This Get Made in the past.
It has. And us, too.
Have you ever... Oh, yeah, have we brought this up?
I think we have. I feel like we've talked about this before.
I don't understand that. Like, I've splashed water in my face to clean my face.
Sure. But it is a tactic so that if you're like having like a panic attack or something, you're supposed to put like some cool water on the back of your neck. It makes sense to do. I feel like I have done the splash the water on my back of my neck before, but not just like splashing it in my face in public.
Just letting it fly. Sophie explains that they need to get out of there. She tells him, like, well, did you got a message from the curator? And he's like, I didn't get any message from anybody. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah,
she's like,
we never talked.
The guy barely knew me, and I barely knew him. And she's like, check your pocket. And there's a GPS tracking dot in it.
Yes.
Is this a thing in 2006? Could
guess.
they do this?
Maybe.
All right. The French FBI has this type of technology. Yeah. So, yeah, they got a little spider tracker on him.
That's right.
They're tracking him. So, Sophie reveals that the cops wiped away one of the lines that Sunye left.
Right.
Which was, P.S. Find Robert Langdon.
Right.
Now, Rachel.
Uh-huh.
I assume... you know what? I'm actually piecing this together because it actually said P.S. Find Robert Langdon. And they think the P.S. means postscript.
Correct.
But it really means Princess Sophie.
Right.
So what he was which was the nickname that we find out that Sunye was her grandfather, and he called her Princess Sophie, which we find out there's a reason that he called her Princess Sophie. I think what this is supposed to be is, if she would have shown up to the crime scene, it's supposed to be Sophie, find Robert Langdon. Mm-hmm. Is he asking for Robert Langdon because he knows that Langdon, as this professor of symbology, would be able to decipher the clues?
I think that's the idea. I think the whole point is that... I think that's why he wanted to talk to him before 2, maybe? I don't know what the point of having him originally was to talk to him.
Yeah.
Unless he thought, well, this guy's good at symbols, and maybe he can... I'm wondering if he was going to, like, bring him into the fold because of his symbology stuff. And
I don't know.
He would protect his granddaughter. I think that might be part of it. He was gonna weed him out and see, like, could I bring you into the fold? Could I put you under my wing and you could take my spot? Because he's getting old. Maybe
that gives some agency to it. I almost thought it was just supposed to be that, like, has he been getting threats or something, or did he think that Opus Dei was getting close? Because, like, we find out that the albino guy has killed 3 other people or something like that before he got to Sunye. So maybe he's just reading the tea leaves and is like, okay, there's people after us.
Could be.
So if somebody goes to kill me, I want Robert Langdon to know that there are clues or something. I'm not sure. Because one of the criticisms of this movie is that Robert Langdon has nothing to do with this story. Right. He's just thrust upon it. And that is totally true. It's somewhat valid because it's not like he needs a connection to the people in the story, but he does need to have some sort of motivation for the story.
Right.
And I do think that he lacks that as a character. Other than trying to clear his name, which is valid, but at some point it is kind of like... I guess he does that a couple of times throughout the story where he's like...
history, though, and stuff is his passion.
Sure.
So I think that's also one of his motivations. Like, yes, in the story he's just like, I just want to go home, like, most of the time. But he's also kind of fascinated and so passionate about this kind of history and these clues and stuff that it still brings him more into the story.
Yeah, I guess you're just supposed to think that he's just very fascinated by it, and it's all the symbols and stuff, so he just keeps kind of driving him. I wonder if the book spells that out more.
Maybe.
I think it's in third person.
Oh, I was gonna say maybe you get a lot of inner dialogue, but I don't know.
I thought that the PS thing was a little weak because like that's such an easy thing to get wrong, and he wrote it in English.
Sure.
So it's like, well, that's such an easy thing for someone to get wrong. Like, why wouldn't you just write Sophie? Why did you?
I think he didn't want to put anything on her, though. He didn't want them looking for her and knowing that she is connected to him. That was 100% why he was like, I can't write her name there. Okay. And she'll know because of all the clues and stuff that I grew up with her with, or she grew up with. So I think that's why it had to be more cryptic. Why English? I don't know. Mistake.
For us.
Mistakes,
Sophie says that they'll just arrest him for months if he goes back out there, and I'm thinking, there's not a lot of very good judicial extradition or anything like that between the United States to get him out of jail for months in France without any evidence against him, but whatever. Sophie believes that them meeting was her grandfather's dying wish, but she doesn't know why. They find out that Sophie wasn't sent by the embassy, right, because they're like, we don't know who Sophie Nevu is. So then we find out that, like, oh crap, they go and they look at his tracker, and they find out that he jumped, and they go after him. So they think that he, like, jumped into, like, a moving bus or something like that.
Yeah. I think it was was it a dump truck or was it a bus? Maybe it was a bus.
I think it was a bus.
Yeah, I think that's a dump truck.
You think it's a dump truck?
Yeah, it's not a bus. Well, I can tell you that. It's like a construction truck. It's a dump truck.
To me, it looked like a bus.
Well,
because why would there be a dump truck at, like...
Because that is definitely not a bus. And why wouldn't there? It's, like, nighttime, so then they can get all their, like, the stuff done and, like, not have a lot of traffic.
I didn't know that they were that efficient about their dump truckness.
I don't know.
If they're like us, they do it in, like, the morning.
Okay, hold on, because I want to prove this to you.
Oh, maybe it is a dump truck. Alright, fine. It's a dump truck. Fumiera. Okay. A chase ensues, but they didn't really go anywhere because they just tossed the GPS into the dump truck. She wants to grieve her grandfather a bit here.
Yeah,
but they
she wants a moment.
Probably look for... Yeah, but they're probably looking for other clues while they're at it.
I mean, sure, why not?
We learned that she was estranged from him, but he called her office a bunch today, saying that it was a matter of life and death, but she thought it was a trick to get in touch because, she just assumes that, like, he's this old man that's, like, voted for the wrong guy, and then he cut her off because, or she cut him off because he kept sending Facebook memes to her and stuff. And she was like, you have to stop doing this. And then she just cut him off, that old story.
Of course. Yeah, that story. That's what it is.
When he couldn't get to her, though, he asked for Robert Langdon. My theory holds up a bit here, Rachel, of he thought that something was going to happen to him.
Sure.
It's still weird that it's Robert Langdon to go to, but I guess...
Well, I think he's the only other person that's going to be able to go through the clues and figure out what they are, because he would understand the history and the religious aspect and the symbolisms of everything to be able to figure it out.
The Priory did a poor job of positioning someone in a power of law enforcement where they could have had some sort of police involved on their end. That would have been a good idea.
Potentially.
Frenchie left the numbers on the ground. They only make sense in order. These are all scrambled. Yeah, they're all Fibonacci numbers, but they don't make any sense because they're out of order. They don't matter. So they start decoding stuff. And they find out that there's an anagram. Maybe it was fun trying to put all this together in the book, because I know he, like, puts the codes and, like, stuff in, like, breaks out the paragraphs differently for, like, some of these. So I bet that you could go through and you could try to figure out what the solutions were as you read.
Oh, sure. Which would be fun. I want more books like that. Anybody have recommendations? I want stuff like that.
There you go. So they find out that the Fibonacci sequences as an anagram, because they scramble all the letters then together, means Leonardo da Vinci Mona Lisa. So then they end up going over to try to find the Mona Lisa.
Yes.
In the meantime, the police have found the GPS, and they radio the guard that was back there, because for some reason they took all the police out of this to go chase him down. So there's only the one security guard still there. I guess also there's no cameras on in the Louvre. That seems odd.
It does
when you
seem
have all
kind
of this
of odd.
Priceless art.
Yeah, you'd think that there would be some sort of, like, camera or security system. Even if it's a really shitty one.
He explains little facts about the Mona Lisa as they go find it. Stuff about how the way that she's positioned, and one side is more feminine than the other side, or something like that.
Side and there's a feminine side.
And then there's more writing. There's as Rachel put it, he's just got this
ink. Clues everywhere all over the Louvre.
Yeah, I've been saving these for 30 years. He just has his
fun ink, and he's just like, I'm just gonna write it everywhere. Oh no, he's been doing it for 30 years. He's just been writing codes on everything for 30 years.
Hoping that no one puts a black light anywhere. If
That's
anyone
what I'm saying. All they had to do was shine a black light.
It says, so dark the con of man on this one. Okay, for some reason, and I still don't understand this, Langdon is like, it doesn't say that. Like, he knows the meaning of it, but all it is another anagram meaning Madonna of the Rocks. So why does he act like he thinks like it's some sort of super clue that like he knows it's about the Holy Grail? Like, he doesn't know any of it. He just knows that it means another painting.
Because I think he's just like, it doesn't say that. I think it's more like that. Like, no, he doesn't. And Hank's really just
read it really weird.
Well, because I think he's already starting to put things together. Why Da Vinci? Why the con of man? Why, specific wordage and things being used here? I think that's why. That's what's happening.
Well, because so dark the con of man. It could be like the con of man is that this cover up is happening, so you can interpret it that way.
Oh, I guess.
But it just seemed like an odd choice when Hanks is like, it doesn't say that, and he just seems so serious about it.
Well, and I think his other point is, I don't think it says that. I think he did another anagram. Is might be what he's doing. I don't think it's it doesn't say that. I think it's like, it doesn't say that. It's another anagram. Like, we already know he did an anagram once. He's probably done it again.
All right. I see. All right.
Because otherwise that's not going to make any sense.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, if I can picture in my head what he's saying and I see what you're saying and just totally interpreted it wrong, or Tom Hanks did not do a very good job.
I just remember him being so like,
Hanks.
It doesn't say that. Oh my God, I've been connected to this phrase my entire life.
I don't remember him doing that. I don't know why.
I don't know.
And then we get a moment from the trailer, and I laughed when he said it this way, because he just goes, Da Vinci. It's like, what are you doing? Why would he say it like that?
I love that. Oh God, it's so good. Da Vinci.
It's terribly corny.
Longfellow.
Longfellow. Yeah, it is the Longfellow of this movie. Folks, for that don't know that, should I explain that
if
one to people? Because that one is so obscure.
I feel like I've done it before.
We have, I'm sure. The movie The Raven about Edgar Allan Poe, which is sort of the Da Vinci Code for Edgar Allan Poe. It's worse than this movie, but for some reason he shouts a lot in it.
Beautiful.
And he shouts a couple of times and goes, Longfellow! So we've put that into our thing. In part thanks to We Hate Movies for pointing that out to us. Not that they personally pointed it out, but when we listened to their podcast on it. They pull back the Madonna on the Rocks painting, and it's another clue. And this time it's a fleur-de-lis on like a key of some kind, or a cross.
Yeah, it immediately it looks like a key. Because it's got the cross T on the one side, but it's a key. It's an obvious key with a fleur-de-lis on the end, but it's just like an old, like, one of those crazy brass keys that has like the T lock. So clearly,
Jacques Saunier was just a really big fan of the Saints. I'm really hoping that they got to Drew Brees this year. I think that they're going to be very good. I think that they're going to win the Super Bowl soon. I cannot wait to see it. Yeah, no, now I am dead.
Yeah, definitely the fleur-de-lis for them. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. It's very sad that he didn't get to see the Saints win the Super Bowl after that. It's only a few years away. Anyway.
So sad. I feel so bad for the man.
Oh no, my Drew Brees. He is going to win the Super Bowl without me. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Okay, so they run out.
It just keeps going.
They run out. They run out before they can get caught. So Langdon asks her, was she aware of any secret gatherings?
Yes.
does she remember any, like, cultish activity? And she does. I don't know if she admits
Or, like,
to it at this point.
No, none of that crap. No. I think she's like starting to realize it. She doesn't want to come to terms with it yet.
Okay, because later on she admits that she saw her grandfather having sex in some sort of orgy ritual, but she, like, does not mention that here.
Or was just watching it. We don't know where he was in that part of it.
Well, I feel like it was implied that he was getting ridden, but we'll get to that later.
No, because it would have been a man and a woman. It would not have been... What?
Yeah, because it was like
Oh,
it was a woman on.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Kevin marked that one. I don't know what the hell we're gonna use it for, but it's getting marked.
You're using it for nothing. Get out of here.
The Priory of Sion comes up, and I wrote, look at all these little French cars, because they're driving around in, like, one of these
the
little
French
box
cars are funny.
For our European friends, I'm not saying that out of derision. I hate American cars. Rachel can attest to this. Every time anytime she's here and we park in a parking lot, I am detesting all of these people with these big, fucking stupid American cars.
Yeah.
So yes, the French cars look stupid because they look like little clown cars.
I mean, I don't want to go
these
that
American
tiny.
cars are so goddamn stupid.
They're giant and unnecessary. You need a ladder to get into those cars.
Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous.
Stupid.
They try to get to the embassy, but it's been surrounded already by the cops. And he is like, I don't want to run. Like, I'm already in enough trouble as it is. Like, let's just see if there's, like, a back door I can get into this embassy or something. But she insists on it because she's like, look, if Sunye thought that this was important, then it must be bigger than us. So she backs out, and we get this car chase that pursues again at this point.
Oh, yeah. But she's going backwards.
Yeah, suddenly she's James Bond. Suddenly she's got Bond-like powers of driving backwards down busy Paris streets.
This is normal.
Doesn't...
This is just how they all drive. I don't know why you're making
this is just how the French drive?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why you're making this out to be like some fancy way of driving.
No, you're right. You know what? You're right. I'm sorry. There we go. Okay, so you know what? I apologize to the French. Okay, so I did not think that this score fit this chase scene as much as I enjoy the Hans Zimmer score in this. Something about this didn't fit the action to me. I don't know if you felt the same way.
I don't know. I thought it was fine. It didn't bother me. It was very exciting.
All right. Well, there you go. Okay. All right. Two different opinions here. Here comes the albino. He's driving a car, which I thought was just the silliest thing to see. Because it's like, here's this guy with thorns in his legs wearing a monk suit, and he's driving this car.
Right.
We get flashes of his past, which I'm assuming was an entire chapter of the book.
Oh, I
meaning
bet.
It was 3 pages. He killed an abusive dad or stepdad or something like that. Then he ends up looking like an evil wizard in Azkaban, where he's thrown in this juvenile prison in Spain, I'm assuming.
Right.
They put me in Azkaban, and I am not even a... now I'm doing French for the Spaniard guy, but you get the idea. I'm not even a wizard, and they threw me into Azkaban.
Oh my god.
Oh no, that would have been interesting. What if he was a wizard? He was an albino wizard monk.
He's a wizard monk.
Employed by the Opus Dei. Now,
Wizard
there you
monk?
go. Wizard monk. Now that is a hell of an idea. Get on that, JK. Maybe stop tweeting for once in your goddamn life and do something constructive.
You're not doing anything constructive.
Yeah, you're not doing anything constructive. Why don't you make a teleplay called Wizard Monk?
Wizard monk.
Doc Ock Priest comes in and trained him in Opus Dei. So you learn how he ended up being this, as Alfred Molina calls him, God's warrior and all of this stuff. Like that's how he was always referring to him. It's like his personal assassin. He became an assassin for the church. He's pretty much,
yes, absolutely. That's exactly what it is.
He goes in the church looking for this nun, and he asks about the rose line. Tell me about the rose line. And she explains it goes from the north and south poles. It's the straight line, like almost like the prime meridian. Is that the idea, Rachel?
Probably.
But it's at an angle because it's the north and south pole or
Maybe
something.
That's what it is. Yeah. It goes on like a latitude line. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Or longitude.
Or longitude. Longitude line.
Yeah. and it passes right through the church. So they must have built it on purpose to do that.
Oh, probably.
He dismisses the nun, who isn't sold on him just being alone in this church, which...
Yes.
You know, what can you do? The Archbishop of Opus Dei told you, what are you gonna do? You gotta let this albino come into your church and fuck your shit up, It's like being in New York and you got this Italian guy and he comes in, he's like, hey, I need to be in your church for a while. You need to step out now, missus.
Oh my god.
So then the police find out that they bought 2 tickets to Brussels, 2 like train tickets or something to Brussels, paid on Langdon's credit card.
Why would you use a credit card? I mean, I guess
supposed to be a
have
diversion.
Sure.
But Frash sees right through that.
Oh, sure.
And the lieutenant is like, you don't know he's guilty. And he's like, yes, he is. He's guilty.
Yeah, he's very, on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. He is insistent about it. And we don't know why. You assume he's in on this somehow because he's so insistent on it.
Right.
You just don't know in what capacity.
Exactly.
Yet. They are just walking around. They're like going into a park, and it's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, you need to go hide somewhere. I was surprised that they weren't mugged or something while they were in this park.
Well, they almost were. There was a crack addict sitting at the bench that she asked him to move, and even Langdon makes a comment of how did you know that would have been safe to do? Why didn't you tell him to leave? He could have killed you.
First of all, I think it might have been, was it crack or was it heroin? Because he was
Oh,
firing
a
spoon up.
Is that heroin?
Yeah, I think a spoon is folks at home, let us know.
Or do you have to cook the
I think
crack? I don't know how any of this works. There was a druggy man,
funny.
Okay? There was a man doing drugs.
A man doing drugs. A druggy man. Druggy man!
A druggy
Meanwhile, at the church, the albino is doing an Indiana Jones impression by just wrecking this floor of the church to try to find the Holy Grail.
Yep.
Yeah, you have a problem with that? I like how you said that, Rich.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, you have a problem with that? You think there's some sort of gimmick infringement here or something? He finds an artifact in the ground, and it's got Job 38:11 on it, and he seems distressed about this. And I was about to look up what Job 38:11 was, but we find out later, so I'm glad that I didn't look it up. So we'll get to that in a minute. Because at the same time, this is where Sophie tells a bum to, go get some food and gives €50. I think that the heroin might have been worth more than the €50. I think he should have at least got to recoup his losses.
Could have been a crappy brand, though, and then it's just going to be a lot cheaper.
He is a bum,
laced
so
with
that's
something.
fair.
You never know.
Mm-hmm. She was apparently trained in puzzles and codes as a kid, and then they realized that this is some sort of treasure hunt. So they're like, okay, now there's going to be... I love puzzles! And they're about to do a puzzle. We get a lot of exposition dump here with the church and the Priory of Zion and all this stuff. So we learn about the Knights Templar was the Priory of Zion's military wing. They were looking for an artifact to protect from the church, and that's what the Crusades were about. But what happened? I'm paraphrasing all of this. This goes on for a while, and it gives you like a flashback of it. It shows you it kind of goes into the church gave them limitless power, but by 1300 they have become too powerful, and the church decides that they have to cleanse the earth of heretics. Because they think, okay, these people are too powerful. We need to call them heretics. We need to say that we need to cleanse the earth of all of these heretics, and we're going to get rid of them. Friday, October 13th, 1307, they massacre the Knights Templar. Almost like the end of Friday the 13th. Yes, they spell that out for you too. Yeah, we got it. We got it. You literally said it. Thank you. I think that might... Is that one true? Is that one a true story?
I
don't know. Where Friday the 13th comes from?
Why is it called... In the Bible, Judas, a person who is said to have betrayed Jesus, was the 13th guest at the Last Supper. Many unfortunate things happen on Fridays. Oh, here's Knights of the Templar. There you go. There it is. Origin of Friday the 13th superstition. It's agreed the origins remain murky.
Okay. I'm glad that we now know that.
We gotta learn some stuff.
Learned something.
Vinci Code.
Today. Yeah, a lot of shelf life lessons will be had here.
Damn straight.
They kill off the Knights Templar same way that the Emperor kills off all the Jedi, essentially. Oh, execute order Friday the 13th, or whatever he said. And then they end up... They do a bunch of raids. They find no treasure. Robert Langdon explains that it's the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is supposed to be the treasure that the Knights Templar were protecting. So again, we're just going on a Grail quest a la Indiana Jones.
Right.
They take a look at the fleur-de-lis key and they realize that it has added on parts. Like, pieces of it are clearly from a different time period than another time period, so it must be added on, and it makes a key. And then they realize that there's, like, words on it, and it's a street address.
Yes.
It's not whatever
it's way
he
more
thought it was
modern.
at first. Yeah. So there's an address on it.
Yes.
Back at the nun's house, or whatever you call that, a nunnery, I believe, she's on the phone with someone. I don't know if we ever find out who she's on the phone with.
I don't know.
Is it just the people at Rosalind Palace at the end? It must be.
Maybe?
It's clearly somebody that's part of
The order.
the priory.
Yeah, because they have, like, all these numbers and stuff. The list that she has to call and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be somebody who's within that's still alive.
She fears that the other guardians are dead, so she's in on it. Oh, did I say she's calling the police?
Maybe she's either calling the police or she's calling one of the guys and they're dead.
Oh,
And that's why she says, "Please pick up the phone. I'm doing the list. I'm calling the list." You know, I'm wondering if that might be what it is. She started the phone tree, and she's like, "You gotta pick up the phone.
I need to call 2 people, and then you need to call 2 people, and then we'll all know that this albino found the Job thing."
That's right.
The albino walks in, though, and he's like, I've come all this way, but no further. It was a dead end.
Yes.
And we find out that it was a dead end because of what the Job 3611 means. And Rachel, what does Job 3611 mean?
I didn't write it down.
Apparently neither did I.
This far and no farther will you come. Here, your proud waves must stop.
Yes. So it's a dead end. They sent the albino on a fetch quest to get this Job thing, and it's supposed to be like, yeah, fuck you. It's a big fuck you. It's like, this is a dead end.
That's what it seems like, yeah.
He realizes he killed all those people for nothing because they sent him on a dead end.
And then he decides to kill another person because of
he just whacks her over the head with this big thing. But he asks her where the keystone is.
Yes. He thinks she's a part of it, and she's going to know where stuff is.
She is a part of it. I mean, she clearly is a part of it.
Yes, she's
because I think she even says, like, you'll never find it, or something
secretary.
like that. Yes. I've been the secretary for the priory for the past 75 years.
No, she probably does know more than that. I'm just being silly.
Oh, yeah. But he kills her with this joke thing.
Absolutely.
There's a meeting of bishops, including Doc Octopus here, and he wants 20 million euro in untraceable bonds to give to this guy called the teacher.
That's right. That's normal.
Seems like a lot.
Nah, that's not enough.
We give away more than that to these perverts who touched the little altar boy. We can give 20 million to the teacher. It's fine.
Oh, no.
The one bishop doesn't like it, though, and kind of goes off on him and is like, who are you to be, like, saying that you're going to be, like, the savior? Because this entire time he's like, tonight's the night. We're going to get shit done.
Yes.
This is going to be awesome. All this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. He says that the council has forgotten its purpose, and the grail will be destroyed tonight, one way or another, and the priory members will be silenced. He does a little, he gets very evil
excited.
Villain speech, yes. Then it goes back to Tom Hanks and Sophie. He goes to this place. It's like a bank, I think, is where we're at now.
Yeah, it's a bank.
It's
the bank, yeah.
The bank even has, like, some sort of important symbol on the ground. I can't remember what the symbol was, but it's some sort of symbol that means something.
You know, it looks kind of...
I think it means something in the book.
Oh, okay. It looks kind of like Prince's symbol. You know, the two
it does look a little like Prince's
together.
Symbol, just to bring that back. Yeah.
No, it has to be something. It has to be something.
Yeah. They put the key in this box, and it opens up like almost like a fake door. And then they're allowed into this bank. He says he doesn't think the curator really liked him at all because he once made a joke at his expense. But he won't say what the joke was yet. Mm. They go into the bank. There's like a vault, and they don't know what they really have, but they kind of show the key, and they're like, oh, well, here you go. Doesn't this seem like a trope from something. Like, I feel like this is from somewhere else,
I think,
but I couldn't put my finger on
I
it.
feel like somebody makes fun of this scene. I feel like I've seen that before, or it definitely is a trope where it happens and the person that we're supposed to see like for 20 years, we're just supposed to wait for somebody to come by, and then we get to give them like special access.
Is your name Marty?
Right.
We were told
It
to
feels
wait
like
till
that.
1955. It felt like something you would have seen in a James Bond movie.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, getting the key and coming into the thing. Like, it felt very spy-esque.
Right.
The bank manager walks in, they talks French to Sophie, and then Sophie responds in English so that they know to speak English so that Langdon can understand. It's a Swiss account key, so it's some sort of like Swiss bank, but it's like very, very secretive. And there's accounts that go back thousands of years in this bank or something like that.
Yeah.
Not thousands of years, but hundreds of years.
Right.
The Medicis, Rachel, my European history knowledge.
Oh, boy.
I know that the Medicis started the banking system in the Middle Ages,
There we go.
in the Renaissance era.
So
So
it
they
does
wouldn't
go
go back thousands of years. Banking, of course, does go back, but this kind of formalized banking like this would have gone
fair.
back that far. Yeah. Folks at home, let me know if I'm wrong about that, but I do remember something about the Medicis and the banking system. Because it's not, I mean, Jesus Christ hated the bankers and the tax collectors. I mean, that's a form of banking.
Wow. And then they used them to hide something insane.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
They're like, okay, you must have like inherited this or something, but it's yours, basically, whatever's in there. We don't know what's in there, but it's something.
Right.
And they're asking, how do you get the account number? But there's no way to know. Like, you just have to know it or you don't know it.
Right.
And you only have one chance to enter it, or it closes everything down because they're in a video game. So they have to figure out what this is. They think it's probably the Fibonacci sequence.
Of course.
Because it's got to come back, you know?
Right. Well,
Like,
because
you
he
can't
gave you the
can't
numbers, but he put them, he jumbled them up, and then you guys realized, well, it's Fibonacci, and it's like, well, that's going to be the code. Let's go. And of course, that's right.
Yeah, they get a little character development dialogue as she puts the code in, and it's correct. She does it very slowly, though. She does it very deliberately.
Yes. Part of me didn't know if she was actually adding the numbers to get the next number.
Question.
Yes.
Did he or did someone back in the day, was Fibonacci like a part of this priory and they asked specifically for those numbers? Is that why like it's a
No.
Fibonacci sequence?
No, I think they're just using mathematician stuff. Don't you think?
Yeah, but like
because it's a good code.
oh yeah, all right. Because I was like, well, but it's like it's your
the
account
sequence
number
is
too,
just like
isn't it? Or is it just a code?
Well,
it's just a password.
It's just the first 10 like digits of the Fibonacci sequence. The
Yeah.
sequence is just a pattern.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
But I'm saying like, did they deliberately ask for like, we want this as our account number to make
Yes.
it something? Okay.
Well, I mean, they probably said, here, put your code in that you want it to be. It has to be 10 digits.
Okay.
And then they
yes.
go, okay,
it's a
1,
code,
1, 2,
not a.
you
Got
know.
it. Got
Yeah.
it. Okay.
It's like a password. It's a password, but with numbers.
A machine brings the box to them, and inside is a wooden box. So they open up their safety deposit box, and inside is this wooden box with a
Box
rose
within a
on
box.
it.
That's right.
Oh, great. Another box. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's like getting that, you do that thing on Christmas where I've done it to you before where you wrap a box in a box.
Yeah.
So then it looks like you got a box. It's great. Always gets a good hearty laugh.
Of course.
There's a rose on the box, and we are told that it was a symbol for the Holy Grail by Langdon. And then the manager says that the police have arrived and they must follow him. And they're like, okay. So then they follow. I guess you have to. Like, what choice do you have, right? Like, you're either in this vault or you're gonna be arrested.
Right. Exactly.
So the bank manager explains to them that hers is one of the oldest accounts, and it includes a safe passage clause.
I love
so
that.
You
I
know,
love that.
gotta love the rich, man. They have those safe passage clauses, whatever they've got in there. If somebody shows up, they're allowed to get out of there.
Right.
So he has them go in the back of this bank truck, and they get flagged as they exit. And it's like an armored car, right? So I call it a bank truck, but it's an armored car.
Same idea.
And the lieutenant asks him, like, okay, do you have...
You need
like,
to
where
open
are
the
you
back
headed?
and-
Or yeah, open up your back. And he's like, well, I don't have the keys to the back. They send the
They have the
keys to the
key.
destination, which is actually a clever
Right.
like way to
That's
get out of it
very
because it
clever.
like makes sense. Like, yeah, they don't give me
Right.
the
I'm not
key, they give
allowed
the
to
key.
open this. Yes. I'm just the driver. I'm not allowed to open this.
The cop thinks he's not a driver because he's got a Rolex watch on, and of course, like, I like that little observation thing. It's
Oh,
like,
sure.
oh, and then the guy's like, well, it's fake. I'll give it to you. And then the lieutenant like gets sick because of it because he's trying to barter with him for this fake quote unquote watch. And then the guy's like, just go. And I'm like, oh man, the cops are very incompetent here because they're like, would you just let him go? Wouldn't you like look at the watch and be like, oh yeah, let me take a look?
Well,
and,
he kind of just goes like, all right, whatever, fine.
How did they know that they'd be at this bank?
I don't know.
Is there any reason for them to think that they'd be at this bank?
No, I don't think there is. That's weird.
Okay.
You know what? I don't think I noticed that. I have no idea how they knew.
Yeah, that just kind of popped in my head. Folks at home, let us know if we missed something in the movie or if the book explains that, because I just realized, like, wait, why did they go there in the first place? Why would they just track
weird.
this down? Back at the Bishops, they talk about the albino again, and he's beating himself again. But then we go back into the truck. There's like this cutaway of just watching him beat himself because he killed the nun, and it's like, all right, I don't know if we needed that. We
already established this.
That.
We already knew.
Yes, thank you, Ron. In the back of the truck, they talk about God. Sophie says she doesn't really believe in it. She believes in people, and sometimes they are kind. And he talks about how he was raised Catholic. Mm-hmm. And inside the box is a cryptex.
Yes.
A Da Vinci design, and then she explains to the audience what a cryptex is. Rachel, would you like to explain to our audience what a cryptex is?
It's a box that you can only... Well, okay, I guess it's specific, because it does have a little vial of vinegar in it. So you put the paper in it, it has this little vial of vinegar in it. It's locked with a code, right? I don't remember how many... A, B...
5.
So it's 5
5.
digits, right? A 5-digit code. And if it's jostled or you try to force it open, that vial will break and the hidden message is gone forever. It's supposed to just disintegrate the paper. Otherwise, you put the code in and then you get the message coming out.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun little game.
I love it. I want one. That sounds cool.
I know that they have. I have
puzzle boxes.
Yeah,
that I can hide stuff in and stuff. They're so cute.
I think you can for sure get the, what would you call it? You can get the replica of this cryptex on various places, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
She explains that her grandfather made one for her once, and like all the puzzles and stuff that she used to get as a kid and growing up. Tom Hanks goes, one time my grandfather gave me a wagon. And he's like, oh. She realizes that Langdon's not comfortable being in the back of the truck, and she does this pressure thing to his forehead to try to ease him. Yeah, calm him.
I would think it's like a pressure point
and she remembers
anxiety.
It's probably something, just to like almost like ease it. Like when you have a headache and you like squeeze your head or your temple and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She remembers a car crash. It must have been the one that killed her parents, is what I was thinking, and that's what it turns out to be. And her grandfather takes her out. All I could put in here was, okay, Tom Hanks is sweating like crazy in the back of this truck because he's like claustrophobic, so he's like all nervous. He's been running around. He's having a bad day. He just looks super sweaty, and I was like, I'd be like, if I was Sophie, I'd be like, oh, he's so sweaty, like touching these temples.
He probably has that nervous sweat smell. Ugh.
No. What it is he definitely stinks, but Robert Langdon looks like the kind of guy that just oozes cologne.
Oh,
this
that's
guy
true.
Bathes in it, so that's the stench that's coming off of him. The cops could have found him just by stench alone.
That's how they knew. That's how they knew they went to the bank.
Oh, that's how they found him. We just followed. We followed the Old Spice, and we were able to find him. They come to a stop. He hides the cryptex, and the manager opens the door.
He puts the cryptex in his pocket.
Yes.
And closes the box.
Well, because he doesn't want anybody to know like what he found or anything like that. The manager opens the door and points a gun at them. And he says, 20 years I've been waiting to see like who was going to open that account. And now he wants it. Well, then
you're just a scummy bank person. Because your whole job is to not care and just do your job.
Right. And I don't think he knew what was in it. So I think he just thought it was...
They're not supposed to. Bank people, they don't know what's inside of those boxes.
It's like a Harry Potter thing where it's like, those goblins do a better job of protecting those vaults than this
Damn
manager
straight.
did. They don't question what's in there.
Nope.
Voldemort
That's not
could
their
have
job.
piles of Nazi gold in his fucking
He did.
Gringotts vault.
He totally did.
And they didn't question it. Yeah, I guess he did.
He did.
This guy would have made a terrible goblin.
Very, very terrible.
He shoots in the air, which ends up, like, hitting this... like, this thing ricochets off the walls because of the fact that it's, you know, an armored truck. And then, almost, like, then the casing falls on the ground, and then Robert...
pushes it
so that it goes, like, in between the doors of the truck and the floor bed, so that if the door shuts, it would get jammed.
It won't shut all the way. Right.
Yeah.
Which, you know what? Fair. He is claustrophobic. Of course he would be looking for a way to keep that damned door open.
All right, that's fair. All right, I'll give you that one, Rachel, because I was like, I mean, that's pretty on the ball, but I guess, like,
the
if
only
you
thing
are
I could think of.
claustrophobic, you're always trying to find a way out.
I'm gonna jam this door. Nobody's gonna be able to close this on me.
I thought the bank manager was about to execute them.
Oh, I feel like he was too. Turn around? I was
Yeah,
like, he's just gonna shoot him.
Like, what do they think? I like, I guess if you're like them, you don't even say, like, wait a minute, like, we can make a deal. Like they're just, like, gonna go along with it. But then all the bank manager is going to do is actually just lock them inside.
Which maybe they had that feeling. Like, they're like, oh, he'll just close the door and leave us alone. We gave him the box, you know? Like, whatever.
He does mention that they are murderers. So at this point, he
Yes.
realizes that they're wanted for murder. So
Sure.
I guess he could always turn them in at this point or something like that. Or, like, say, like,
Yeah.
he's got them locked up in the truck or whatever. Like, maybe that was his, like, master plan at the end of this.
I guess. But at the same time, he would have also been arrested for stealing and, like, the gun stuff.
I guess
and
he could
lying to
claim
a police officer.
he could claim that they kidnapped him, Rachel, and then he was able
Whatever.
to get them stuck in the truck. So
yeah,
there.
fine.
Hey, these cops apparently will believe literally anything you tell them.
That's true.
So
It's very true.
he tries to slam the door, but the bullet stops it, and then Langdon pushes it and knocks the guy over. They grab the keys and the box again, and they take off in the truck, and they leave the bank manager behind. So now they're running away in the truck.
Yep.
And Tom Hanks is like, what are we doing here? I've been shot at. I'm bleeding. And I was just like, that's a funny reading, the way that he says, like, I'm bleeding. So now...
It's just Tom Hanks at this point going, what am I doing in this movie?
Why did I sign on for this? I
They're
signed on
actually
for 3
shooting
of
at me.
these. I have this ridiculous haircut that I apparently insisted on. This movie has a weird way of pacing the action and the exposition. Now, because they're just traveling again, so it becomes another... And I could see this working better in a book than it necessarily does in a movie. Because, again, he's just like, so what happened between you and your grandfather? And it's like, okay, I guess, like, you need to talk about something. But I'd almost be talking about, like, well, what are we doing? Where are we going? Like, what are we going to do next?
Like, what's next?
Yeah, you wouldn't be like, so,
Well,
you know,
I think...
how's your grandpa? How you guys doing?
But maybe that's his way of trying to figure out what to do next, is because he goes, this grandpa has something to do with something. I need to know more about him. Tell me more so I can try to figure out what to do next.
Well, he ends up thinking that she was trained for this.
Right.
And they're like, well, you know, do you think it's real? And he's like, it doesn't matter if I think it's real. So there's people out there that think it's real, and they're clearly, like, ready to kill for whatever this is.
Exactly.
I couldn't tell if he really believes it or not. I think this entire movie, he is a skeptic until the last 2 scenes of it, actually.
It feels that way, yeah.
He's kind of an empty vessel throughout most of this movie.
Empty vessel.
Meaning that, not literally like the Holy Grail, but like he's almost like
funny.
He's almost like a blank slate character. There's not a lot, other than him being claustrophobic and a genius, you don't know a lot of his motivations,
we don't know his background.
or like
he got
a lot
wagon from his grandpa. That's about it.
and he fell in a well. But you don't really understand like a lot about him. There's not a lot of growth, and that's fine. I've seen that be a criticism, but like you are allowed to have static characters and dynamic characters. You can have a character that is static and still your protagonist.
Sure. He's kind of the us character. He's how we get dragged into it too, because he got dragged into it.
Yes, exactly. I think that is.
But he's not the everyman, like we were saying.
No, he's not. But he does have a little bit of, and I know you don't like this analogy, but it's the analogy that I like to use because I think it's funny. He is kind of the Frodo in the sense that he doesn't propel the story forward at all. Stuff just happens to him, and he's just along for the ride.
But you're not wrong about that. I'm not upset with that one. It's just the truth.
But Frodo does have an arc. So he's not as static as
Kind
Robert
of,
Langdon.
but it's only because stuff is done to him.
Right, that's true.
It's only because of the ring. The ring is
what does he
corrupting
learn?
him.
Yeah.
He learns nothing. He just wants to go home.
So does Robert Langdon. I'll drop this goddamn cryptex into that goddamn volcano.
Oh. So then our lovely monk character is Gollum. It's perfect.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
it's perfect.
That is true. Yep. Mm-hmm. Made a whole little analogy there, didn't you, Rachel?
I really did. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
The cops question the manager, and he tells the bank manager, the captain, Captain Fish, Jean. What did I say his name is? I'm sorry, what? Fish?
You said Captain Fish. It's Fosh.
Oh, Fosh.
How do you say
Jean Renault. Let's just call him Jean Renault. So Jean Renault says to the bank manager that the cause that he is fighting for is worth that guy's life. Now you understand, like, okay, in some way, form, or fashion,
it's
the
fesh,
captain
and
is...
it means angry, and I didn't realize that.
Oh, there you go. So he's Captain
funny.
Angry. Perfect. That gets the bank manager to talk, and he's like, now activate the fucking homing device on this truck so that I could go home.
Right.
So Robert had said that he was going to take them to some guy that was obsessed with this Holy Grail legend stuff. And they go to the X Mansion. And lo and behold... lo and behold, I guess, Xavier's dead, but he did give it to Magneto.
But Eric Lencher. Magneto.
And being Magneto, he does what Rachel has said... I mean, I've taken this really more from The Simpsons, but it's just funny because this came out after the joke in The Simpsons, and it's just the same joke, which is, I'll let you in if you can answer me these questions 3. Question the first. And
Will I serve coffee or tea?
Tea.
Robert, do I owe you money?
Lee, my friend. Care to open up for an old colleague?
Of course.
Thank you.
First, test of honor. 3 questions.
Fire away.
Your first. Shall I serve coffee or tea?
Tea, of course.
Excellent. Second, milk or lemon?
Milk.
That would depend on the tea.
Correct. And now the third and most grave of inquiries. In which year did a Harvard scholar outrow an Oxford man at Henley?
Surely such a travesty has never occurred.
Your heart is true. You may pass.
Milk or lemon?
Yeah.
And I like
Depends
how
on
Sophie's
the
like...
tea.
Yeah, it's like, no, shut up.
She just goes milk. It's milk. That's what she says. Like, it's milk.
And he's like, no, shut the fuck up, shut up, I have to think. That would depend on the tea. Which year did a Harvard scholar outrow an Oxford man at Henry?
And that one almost stumped him.
And then, of course, Ian McKellen goes,
They let him in.
Your heart is pure. You may
Your
pass.
heart is impure.
He even says he says you may pass.
You
This
shall
guy-
pass. You
this guy's
shall
like-
not
Yeah,
pass.
he literally
I mean,
does
he is
that.
Gandalf. That's
I
right.
can't believe that they have him say that, but this guy is a trip, this character. Okay, so two things about it. First of all, Ian McKellen, welcome to the Two Timers Club. This is the Ian McKellen volume here. X-Men and Da Vinci Code. So Ian McKellen gracing us, Sir Ian McKellen gracing us with his presence. The second thing about this character, his name is Teabing. Professor Lee Teabing. Folks, come on. I remember the South Park episode, and in that they call him Professor Teabag. And I always thought that they were just calling him that because he was British and teabag. But in the actual Da Vinci Code, his name is Teabing? That's not a name. You can't name a character Teabing.
Why?
That just sounds too funny. It's too silly of a name. It
kind of
silly.
is. You got T and Bing put together. It is a little weird.
Allegedly, it is the name of one of the guys from the 80s that wrote the book based off of the Priory of Sion thing, and it's an anagram for that guy's name, so that's how you get to Teabing. I don't care. You still named him Teabing. You could have named it literally anything else. You could have named him Sir Ian McKellen, and I would have been fine with it. The cops end up tracking the... Uh-oh, Rachel.
I'm sorry,
Rachel.
I looked it up. I wanted to know what it was.
What was it?
So, Lee is actually in the guy's name, right? It's Begent. I don't know how to say it.
Oh, yeah, like Begent? Okay, yeah,
Begent Lee is that person's name.
Okay.
That's the anagram for Lee Teabing.
Okay.
Which they could have just literally gave him the name if they wanted it to be, like, on the nose.
Yeah, well, those guys apparently sued Dan Brown because they were like, this is just our story, you just redid it. And they unsuccessfully did that because, of course, he changed it enough and he was just based on that kind of stuff. I'll call him either Sir Ian McKellen or Professor Teabag, because why not? He's just Professor Teabag. The cops track them to this French countryside at this Chateau Maison thing, and Frenchie ends up calling someone, and we find out that he's calling the bishop. The bishops are playing pool as they wait. I thought that was interesting. Bunch of devout, conservative, Opus Dei bishops playing pool. Isn't that kind of a devil's game? Billiards?
I mean, if they're gambling, I suppose. Billiards is the devil's game. That's an interesting thought. Just can't picture that.
We meet Ian McKellen's character, Professor Teabag, and he's playing this professor who is crippled and somehow extremely rich.
Oh,
like,
extremely.
Ridiculously rich. What do you think this guy does that he became so rich?
He just invests well.
Yeah, okay.
He's also a professor, and he invests well. That's all I got.
It seems like they tried to make him look older than...
They totally did.
Than he was at the time, too. Because especially later on when he makes this turn, he looks younger in those later scenes than he does here.
Yeah, I think that's the idea.
And he tells them, I'll get the Earl Grey. And then Tom Hanks leans over to Sophie and goes, lemon. And he and Ian McKellen goes, correct. I like that little...
I like my Earl Grey with some milk.
Well,
That's
you would not be allowed into the chateau. I am sorry, but your answer is incorrect and insufficient. You must leave. The albino gets into the chateau.
Somehow.
And he climbs over a wall.
All right, fine.
And they get to talking about the Keepers and the Secret War. And the Keepers? The Guardians of the Secret? And they talk about how the Pope was actually supposed to be a rabbit. Oh wait, no, that's different.
Oh no, you're getting them all mixed up again, Kev. Not teabag, teabing.
There's a lot going through my head. They go over the hoax and the fact that there are always 4 keepers, and the Priory protects the source of the Church's power on Earth. He explains then, of course, that the Holy Grail is not a cup. Do you think that Langdon has heard this all before, or do you think that this is like the first time that he's like connecting all of these like things that this crazy old man he knows has been telling?
No, I think he's heard this story before. I think he knows the story of the Holy Grail and like the different stories of the Holy Grail. So he's like, well, this is this one, right? But he's piecing it together with what's happening to them now, I think is what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't think any, like, of the Holy Grail stuff is something that he doesn't know.
Yeah,
Definitely
no,
something he would
okay.
know from his, like, work.
Yeah. The way that he interacts here, though, it made me think, like, I guess I could interpret it two ways.
I think he's just teaching Sophie.
Yeah, I could interpret it one way of he's heard this all before, and him and Lee have had, like, arguments back and forth about the validity of it.
I think they have.
Yeah, that's the way that it's played off. I've read that it is less contentious in the book, in almost that he's hearing it and listening. I like this interpretation a little bit of, if that's true, because I haven't read the book. I like that this is more contentious, where it's like he's almost giving you the skeptic's point of view of all of this conspiracy theory nonsense.
Right. I like
because
it too.
This guy, this Professor Teabing, he's on forums, he's in the darkest corners of the web.
Oh,
he
absolutely.
He is looking at every conspiracy theory. He believes in everything, and all of the stuff that contradicts all of that stuff, he believes it.
He's down that rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
He's never coming out.
Well, we're going to tell you the story of how the government is coming up and concocting a vicious virus that's going to kill us all, Charles.
And by the way, they're actually lizard people.
Not only that, but there are mutants among us. Robert, make no mistake, they'll come for us in the middle of the night. They'll be albinos, and they'll kill us all. Hang on, sometimes he does this. He goes back and forth between this character that he calls Magneto and himself. You just gotta let him go through it.
He's a bit... Charles! You should have killed me when you had the chance!
Killed me when you had the chance!
He's like, okay, he's done. We're good.
I need to shout that again at the end when he's shouting back at him. So anyway... They talk about all of this stuff. He explains what it is. The Bible was really... This is what he's saying, and I summarized it as best I could, that the Bible was really just one man in Constantine, and that the religious wars were fought against pagans. Neither knows who started it, but it was splitting Rome in two, that there was this like civil war of religion between the pagans and the Christians. Mm-hmm. And Constantine decided that when he was like on his deathbed that he would put Rome all under Christianity to save the empire.
Right.
And that started the Council of Nicaea, which is a real thing.
Yes.
Where they debated, I think it's a real thing, where they debated about how they were going to form and formalize Christianity. Because at the time, Christianity was all under these different sects, and they all believed different things and different pieces, so they all had to kind of come up with, okay, what is the Catholic Church going to look like? Mm-hmm. And this, according to the conspiracy theory, is where they make Jesus the Son of God. Before that, he was man, and one day he was God.
Yeah.
According to Teabag.
Right.
Robert disagrees with this because he says, like, no. It was a prevailing thought, if you were Christian, that, like, he was the Son of Man. He was a prophet. He was your savior. Mm-hmm. And all that... Yes. And all that the forming of the Catholic Church did was sanction the idea and make it formal.
Right. Yes.
So then he goes to show them the Grail. And he has, which is the craziest thing in the world.
I love this. Because why does he already have this up?
Do you think that all this monitor shows, it's a Samsung TV, and all it shows is a picture of the Last Supper?
Maybe he just has artwork up on it all the time.
Oh, and it just floats through artwork. That's fair. Because they're like in this crazy room, which is like, I think supposed to be a study, but he's a hoarder. So there's just shit everywhere.
I would be fascinated to walk through this man's house because there's just papers on the wall. There are artifacts everywhere.
Because he's a crazy conspiracy theorist.
It's
just a rich
amazing.
Conspiracy theorist.
I love it.
He tells Sophie to close your eyes. And he asks her, where's Jesus sitting in the Last Supper painting? And some questions. And what did they drink?
Wine. But there's no glasses.
And how many cups are there? And there's no cups.
Right.
Which is true. In the painting, there is no cups.
Correct.
That is interesting. Like, it's
kind of an odd thing that it's not there.
This is where, like, the fun of the conspiracy theory, like, stuff comes in. Because it's like, oh, yeah, all these, like, little, like, little, like, idiosyncrasies of these things. And it's like, oh, you kind of, like, piece them together. And if you try really, really hard and you you ignore stuff, you can make things out of it. They do your man versus woman symbol, Rachel.
Yes.
Bunch of triangles.
The hands.
Yeah.
Well, because it's actually Mary Magdalene sitting next to Jesus, not
John.
John, right.
Yeah. Fine. I guess you could say it's, like, slightly feminine. The hint of a bosom.
The hint of the bosom annoyed the hell out of me.
I stared at that picture for a while. I saw no hint of a bosom.
There is no hint of bosom. She just had, like, it's just a more feminine, like, shaped face and stuff like that.
Which could very well be because John could have been a younger apostle, so you're drawing him to look younger, which makes him look more feminine.
I mean, honestly, looking at it, it looks like a woman.
Sure.
It could be
and it could have been Mary. Mary was one of the fucking apostles.
Sure. It could be Mary. It's like, why not? I would also think Leonardo probably used women as models once again, and maybe just didn't masculine up this model. You don't know.
He also was around approximately 1400 years after Christ, so he has no fucking clue what any of them looked like.
Exactly.
It's why it's so hilarious.
I do like the idea of it being Mary, though. It's kind of fun.
The idea is very fun. It's a fun idea. It's a fun concept. Yes.
Yes.
And then I thought it was a little weird because they mansplained to her the symbols, which they're doing for the sake of the audience, because she's a cryptologist.
Right.
She probably knows the symbols for man and women, but they have to do it because the audience is not going to know what the symbols for man and women
Well, they're also just acting like teachers.
Yeah, they go into professor mode a little bit.
I feel they go into professor mode, and they're just, like, excited to talk about it, and so it just automatically is just how they're speaking.
If this were to be revealed, it would destroy Christianity. I'm going to ask you why that would be in a second. On the right hand of the Lord is Mary Magdalene.
My dear, that's Mary Magdalene.
The prostitute?
She was no such thing. Smeared by the church in 591 Anno Domini, poor dear. Mary Magdalene was Jesus' wife.
Even if she was, let Jesus have fun. Like, that's his woman.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
Hell? Who cares?
But that's because it's the church, though, and they don't really like women. They only like Mary.
Right. So, yes, okay. A lot of things here, folks. Excuse us if we have to cut some of this because of the fact that I'm sure we're about to go on a tangent here. So, first things first. Okay. Mary Magdalene is never described as a prostitute in the Bible. She is never described as a prostitute in the Bible.
I don't think
She's described as one of Jesus' disciples and the one that was at the crucifixion and the one that, if you believe in the Holy Grail story, collected the blood in the chalice.
Mm-hmm.
The sinner Mary is a different Mary. Mary was like saying Joe, you know, it's like Mary was like
Mary was
name.
Everywhere. His mother was Mary. His wife is Mary. There's his other Mary.
There's a sinner Mary.
His half-sister is a Mary. I have no idea.
Don't cast the first stone is a sinner Mary. But even if, and the Pope in 500 AD or whatever conflated the two of them together and then made it so that Mary Magdalene is the sinner Mary, but it still doesn't say that she was a prostitute. So I don't know where they came up with that, but I think that...
I don't know, but I do remember that, like, growing up, learning that she was technically a prostitute.
That's everyone thinks that. Mary Magdalene was a prostitute.
I always thought that was so weird.
Yeah, her name has just been smeared for 1,500 years, and it's been because they were trying to convey it like, look, like even this prostitute was able to reform herself under Jesus and become one of his disciples.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So they're just like, using that instead of the fact that, like, if you really read the text, it's not the same person.
Right.
It's just been totally misinterpreted. Again, Rachel, like you said, even if he was married to Mary, even if Mary was a prostitute.
Yes.
What's the difference? Why does that matter? And I think that you were I think you were onto something because they were trying to suppress women. That's Teabag's hypothesis.
Yes.
So I guess that's the point.
I think that's the whole point. 100%. I think anything like that is always like, well, we have to suppress women.
And because Mary would have been, she's essentially the heir to the throne of Jesus Christ, then, like, she's a threat to the church itself, so they have to suppress women. He blames witch trials and all sorts of stuff.
Which is an interesting concept
theory.
To, like, actually put those together. Like, it caused the witch hunts, which is true. Like, witch hunts did happen, and it was women that were murdered, thousands of them. It's kind of fascinating. So it's like, oh yeah, they were just trying to get rid of Mary Magdalene's bloodline. Which also, why the hell would you want to get rid of Christ's bloodline? Why would the church actually want to murder the bloodline?
Yeah,
I don't understand
it's
that.
very confusing.
That just seems so odd to me.
I guess the other point of it is they think that if he had a bloodline, he's not God, he was just a man. But I don't just get that.
And I
don't
agree with
understand
Sophie
why
on
that's
this
a
one,
thing.
because she also says, why can't he be both? I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Because I thought he was.
I
I grew up thinking that that's how that worked. That he was both, Mary's son, a man,
Yeah.
and the son of God.
Right.
So he had, like, magic powers. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know what? If you like and subscribe on this video, then I will give you the next updates here on my YouTube channel, Professor Teabag's Conspiracies.
Oh, Teabag's tea time.
Next week I will be on several podcasts. Oh yes, Tea Time with Teabing. Next week we're going to talk about
He's
more
gonna spill
about
all the tea.
Now, folks, this week we're drinking Earl Grey. Make sure that you have some lemon next to you as we go over how the Priory has been in secret for 2,000 years.
I love this. That sounds amazing.
I would watch it.
I would watch it.
I would watch it in incognito mode because I definitely don't want to know where the algorithm takes me after watching that video.
Oh, good God, could you imagine the rabbit hole you'd jump down on that one?
Oh yeah, you're believing in horse pills curing your diseases and God knows what. Oh yeah, they're
lizard
lizards.
people.
And since I know somebody, whoever's listening to us record this podcast, we don't believe in any of that stuff. We're
How do you know?
we're debunked. So anyway, Robert says that that's an old wives' tale, and McKellen goes, the original one, in fact. I kind of liked that line.
Yep, get it? His old wife tale?
And he says that the mind sees what it chooses to see.
True,
And
but you could also say that to your side as well.
Right, well,
Just
they
saying.
both say that, because, like,
Yes.
he shows that the spaces between what he says is Mary and Jesus make the chalice shape.
Sure.
And then he shows
Which,
that,
I mean, there is a lot of blank space there,
there is a lot of blank space. I
do
know
like
why,
the mirroring
but...
of the clothing and how that actually balances out. I find that kind of interesting, and like as like an art kind of person, like you look at that. Now, the movement of moving her to be leaning on Jesus's shoulder, no, I don't think Da Vinci was thinking about that.
I think you could do that with all of them, actually. Like, if you actually
Probably.
reposition Jesus, it looks like they all could be, like, on each other's
Leaning
shoulders.
on him. Yeah, they're
even,
leaning onto each
even
other.
Peter,
Which I kind of like is a nice thought process. They're all leaning onto each other,
And even Peter, who's, like, reaching over to apparently talk to Mary. Like,
Yeah,
if
he's
you,
like whispering in her ear.
If you repositioned him, it would look like he's whispering to Jesus.
Jesus.
Like, it wouldn't look any different.
Right. And then if you really look close enough, he has
Look
ears.
closely.
It's stuck in
So-
my head now because you made me watch it.
I know. There's a bunch of actuallys going on. There's a bunch of like, this is what I think, and then the other one will be like, well, actually, you see,
Yes,
da.
100%.
Like, just a lot of that back and
Absolutely.
forth.
It's just the debate back and forth.
He points to the Gospel of Philip, which was not included in the Council of Nicaea. His final thesis here is that the church was supposed to be carried on by a woman and not Peter. And that's where they do all
And that's
this
what it was.
stuff. Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to be with his bloodline and with Mary and not with the other men
Yes.
at that supper.
Which I don't think that the other apostles would have
I don't think they
betrayed
would have been like,
Mary.
No, I don't think
Well,
they would have
I guess
either.
They had to get Mary out of there. So then he posits that Mary was pregnant during the crucifixion, and they needed to get her out of there because otherwise that the Romans would have tried to kill her as well.
I could see that being believable.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
why is it not believable that Jesus has a bunch of kids? Like, he might not even have just one.
Just a fucking load of them.
He might have a load of kids.
He's fucking from one side of the Galilee to the other.
We don't know what happened in those interim years. We know nothing.
Yes, we do know nothing, Jon Snow. You are correct. I guess that's my question. Like, is his celibacy supposed to be something that makes him divine? I don't know why that is.
But why would that make him divine? I just don't understand. Know. When they think, like, when a lot of, well, okay, now we're just going to get into, like, this religious talk, which is probably not that great.
I said we would have to figure some cuts out.
So I don't quite understand why that would make him more devout. But, like, again, it also is, I guess, why most priests don't have wives.
Priests are not, priests,
and
the
or
Catholic
husbands.
Priests are not supposed to.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to have families.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they're supposed to dedicate their life to the church.
Yeah. I don't know, whatever.
So she gives birth. She ends up having the heir to Christ, and because of this, women become a threat to the church because she has a baby girl. I don't know how Teabag would know that, but whatever. And
well,
then
they even know the name.
Oh, do they? Does
Her name
he
was
say
Sarah.
The name? Oh, that's right.
Wasn't it Sarah?
Yeah, Sarah Nazareth. Yeah.
Yep. And Sophie even goes, they know her name? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, even Sophie's like, seems a little far-fetched.
Now you're reaching.
Rachel, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Because this scene goes on for a while. I think they do their best at trying to give you all of this exposition in a way that breaks it down for the audience and gets you there. And it's probably one of the better scenes of the movie as far as like understanding
really
the
scene.
Conspiracy.
Yeah.
But here's my question, because I do feel like a lot of critics gave this a really bad review and people said it was boring and plotting, and I think that you could even see that in this scene of if it being boring and plotting if you're not on board with the puzzles and stuff.
Yeah, if you're not on board with the story and bringing in like part of history and religion and puzzles, you're not going to like this.
So my question is, because this movie has so many exposition dumps, why does it not work as well here, but it works in Christopher Nolan stuff with like Inception and Interstellar? There's Oppenheimer, there's exposition and there's fast talking and explaining plots and explaining why things work. Why does it seem to work better for the general populace in those versus something like this?
Is it because of the religion aspect? Is it just because of like the history and religion? Because those other ones you mentioned are way more like sci-fi fantasy, like weird.
Yeah.
This has way more like connections to realism.
Where people can go, "Oh my god, please, like this is ridiculous," and then they like tune
so
it
they're
out.
kind of rolling their eyes. I'm wondering if that's why. Otherwise, what do you think? Because I have no idea.
No, that's a good hypothesis. I was wondering if it has something to do with the characters in general. Where they're, like I was saying with Langdon, like we don't know a ton about him. I think Ian McKellen is trying to make T being a character, and Sophie, we know about her, but we don't know her personality. And
yeah, she doesn't have much of a personality. I think she's just very stoic.
She's just Clue Girl. And like in all of those Nolan movies where sometimes they could be two-dimensional characters, we've talked about Interstellar and Cooper and all of that, and we'll talk about the others. I feel like you're with them on the journey. Does that make sense? You're with those characters on their journey, and in this, it doesn't seem like you're with them on a journey. You're with them on a quest. You're discovering clues,
right?
But you're not doing something.
It's not
with
more of a
them.
journey, and it's about them. It's more about
it turns into being about her.
Sure.
But they don't know that, so it like becomes harder. I don't know.
So you're not connecting with them. You're trying to connect with the story and the idea of the quest.
Yeah. So now you have to like
the people that are on the journey.
Yes.
You're more so connecting with them. Which, yes, I agree. That's probably another reason why it doesn't technically work in this situation. This definitely feels more like a book sequence.
Yes, 100% feels like a book sequence. And I think that's also part of it is I could see people walking away with this saying it doesn't feel cinematic.
Yeah. That's why I want to read the book. Now, your weird short chapters, though, are turning me off. But...
Ew, I don't like this.
There's something about that that's, like, weird. And I don't
Something
like
very unsettling about these 3-page chapters.
a serial killer wrote this.
I only asked that because I was trying to figure out, because I was like, I mean, I looking at some of the criticisms after I had garnered my own thoughts and was like, okay, I get it. But at the same time, like, but I guarantee that you don't think that about other stuff. So I think that your idea about, like, well, they're fudging with history at the same time as, like, they're trying to do, like, fantasy and, like, maybe it's just too much
Right.
for people. Yeah.
Yeah.
No sacred
That
cows, and then you'll
historical
be
fiction,
fine.
I feel like, scares people sometimes.
Well, like, Dad, for instance. You know how Dad
He
always
loves
loves...
historical fiction.
But he always loves to say, you know, this is based on a true story.
Based on a true story.
Yeah, so, like... I feel like for him, if you put that in front of anything, it enhances it for him.
Oh, 100%.
So I feel like with absolutely, you know, he'll admit that, oh, you know, just shares based on a true story, and then he'll do it for, and then he likes doing it for stupid stuff. Like
yes.
if got like
You know,
for
it's based on a true
Godzilla,
story.
he'd be like, oh, you know, this was based on a true story.
Abraham Lincoln, vampire hunter, based on a true story. He
Yes.
has done that one.
Yes,
That's why we got him that movie.
yes. That's why if we ever do that, he will probably have to guest host with us.
Of course.
There's a buzz at the door as they discuss this, and it may be the albino. And the butler has disappeared, so McKellen answers it. And I was like, oh, it is the butler. He's telling him that they're on the news now.
Yeah, I was confused by that too, but I guess it's just like one of those intercoms inside
Yeah, it's
the
like an
house.
intercom, yeah. Yeah, I thought it was the cops were at the front door.
Yeah.
But
Well,
instead
they
it's...
are, but they didn't buzz at the door.
Right, they didn't
Yeah.
buzz yet, yeah. T-Bing is like, you haven't been honest with me, you're being accused of murder, and all this stuff. And Langston's like, look, Jacques Seigneur was her grandfather, and he might have been a Grand Master, and if the Grand Master was dying, he would need to find a new Grand Master, and look who it is. It's Sophie, she's in your fucking house. And I almost thought he was gonna, like kneel before her, and be
Oh
like,
my
my
God,
queen.
Well, but it's not. I mean, yes, he would if he knew it was like who she actually is technically in the story.
Yes, he would. Yes.
But not if she's just in the Priori. I think that just excites him because it's just like, oh,
Yes.
I have one of them here, a Grand Master. He just
Master's
is
in
like,
my house.
he's in awe. He's in
Better
awe.
than a Grand Wizard being in my house, I can tell you that, Robert.
Ridiculous.
The previous owner of this chateau was also handicapped. That's why I bought it.
Oh my
I
God.
kicked out all of his stupid little students first, though.
Oh my God.
He shows them the rose box, it's the keystone, and he tells him he'll show him it. But before he can, the albino pops up. The cops have arrived, and chaos ensues. Oh, wait, no,
Yes.
wait. First he shows McKellen the keystone, and he carefully opens it and sees the cryptex. He says it's a map to lead them to the Holy Grail. He asks if they found the fleur-de-lis.
And he goes, oh, was that how you found this? Right?
Yes,
I think
yes.
that's what it was.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so, like, because he knows that there's, like, patterns and symbols that he's, like, found while researching all this crap, so he knows where he's going through all this.
Right.
And then he asks her, like, do you know riddles? Do you know these little songs? And he starts, like, singing one of them, and she realizes
Yeah.
that
And it
her
was- it
grandfather's, like,
creeped her
set him
out.
up. Yeah, yeah. That's when the albino attacks Robert, and chaos ensues. He's a pretty good fighter for not having any nutrition,
It's true. It's true.
and having these thorns in his fucking
Oof.
legs.
The man is insane.
He pulls a gun, and Ian McKellen tries to negotiate, but the guy's like, just give me the keystone. And then T-Bing's like, only the worthy can unlock the stone. And he hands over the box, and then McKellen hits him over the head with a club,
Yes.
and then Sophie slams his head into the ground.
Over
Like,
and
I
over
thought,
again. It's
I thought she was
great.
gonna murder him.
I was ready for it. I'm like, go. Let's go.
Knowing the twist that comes, I was
Yes.
like, this doesn't make much sense. But then there's a twist after the twist, and I was like, okay, I guess
so many
that
twists.
makes a little more sense. There are so many twists, Robert. So many twists on our Grail quest. They restrain the albino with duct tape. And then T-Bang explains how he was easy to take down because he's Opus Dei and blah, blah, blah. And then he explains that Jean Renault is also Opus Dei. As the cops pull down the gate, I don't think they ever even tried to get in by, like, asking to get in. They just pulled this gate down.
I guess because they assumed that he was helping them instead of even questioning him. Yeah, what if he was in on it? What if he was being held, kidnapped? Like, what if you just you can't just barge in there, they could kill him. Like, yeah, they don't think about any of this. They're very incompetent. Langdon asks them if there's a way out, and he's like, well, I do have a plane. And I was like, what, is it just on the premises? Ian McKellen's like, yeah, so in fact it comes out of the basketball court that I have in the back. So and then they have to put on the merch from X-Men. Yeah, it all happens again.
Yes, Robert Langdon's wearing the black leather outfit, and he's
That's right.
Did we need to put these on, Lee? And he's like, what would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
Oh my god.
So they do a recording of their voices to throw them off, I guess, here. I think this was kind of a waste of time. Like, just I think
I missed that. When did that happen?
They recorded themselves on the intercom, like a little like back and forth, so that the cops thought they might be in the room or something.
Oh, so they thought they were still in there, so they had to be sneaky.
Yeah, it didn't I don't think it really gave them any time.
I didn't even catch that, but yeah, I could see this also being in the book. Like, okay, let's record this quick.
They take off in a Jeep and they go through the woods to avoid the cops.
With?
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Why did you take the albino?
Why
did you take albino monk?
Yep.
What's that doing for you? He should be tied up in there with a note saying, "This is your murderer. This is your murderer." And he tried to murder me.
According
Why?
to Langdon says... Langdon says they might need him. What?
Well, we know the twist, all right? We know the twist, but it makes no sense.
But why does Robert say that? If it was the twist, then the butler or McKellen should have said it.
Oh, Robert says it?
Robert says it. Because McKellen's
Oh, is he hostaging him?
him?
He's using him as a hostage against the other people.
That's
what he wants to do.
But against
that is so dumb.
They don't know
that is
against
a dumb
who.
Idea.
Against who? They don't know why he's there.
I guess whoever his leader is, the monk's leader.
But what is that? Like, what the fuck are you doing? It's stupid.
It's stupid. I think that's stupid. What it is. That is dumb.
Folks at home, let us know if you disagree with us and you think that there is a valid point to this. It doesn't seem like it makes any sense.
What? You know what I'm going to say to you? You're wrong. There is no valid point to this.
That's right. We are Shelf Life, and we tell you the truth, god damn it! So they explain Opus Dei, because Sophie knows nothing. She's just a blank. She's a cryptologist that works for the police, but doesn't know anything that she might need to know as a cryptologist that works for the police.
I don't know.
No, I don't think that she would necessarily know what Opus Dei is, but...
Right. There's there's weird stuff like that, but...
They have to explain it isn't the Vatican, because they don't want to piss off the Vatican. There's 3 separate times in this where they're like, it's not the Vatican.
It's not the Vatican.
They do
wink,
it like...
Wink.
Yeah. And then they do it again with Alfred Molina, because...
Definitely not the Vatican.
The old man bishop that's part of his group is like, now remember, don't let the Pope know or we'll be excommunicated.
Definitely not the Pope. He's not a part of this, all right? We all know he is, but he's not.
So they're trying to make it like it's just a bunch of despots that are this secret society within the church.
Yeah.
This is the line I also think was from the trailer from Ian McKellen when he goes, "What if the greatest story ever told is actually a lie?"
Yeah,
and it's not a lie. The greatest story ever told is that he was immaculately conceived. You're not proving that wrong. And that he died on the cross. You're not proving that wrong. And that he was resurrected. And you're not proving that wrong by saying that Mary Magdalene was his wife. That doesn't prove any of the basic tenets of Christianity wrong.
Sure. Well, okay, I think his point is that...
the church lied
is that
to
Jesus
people.
was a man.
Yeah. That he
He's
wasn't
a
divine.
man.
That if you
and
can prove
not
that he was
just
a man, that
divine.
he also wasn't resurrected, I guess, is his point.
Yeah, I think that's a part of that.
I think more is that if it was proven that the church lied for 2,000 years...
that is the bigger piece.
Yeah.
There would be an uproar.
Jean Reno comes and says, "How could you lose them?" And he says, "Captain, I did not lose them. You did. And you're losing your mind."
Yeah, seriously, I think that's what he wants to say.
And he doesn't know why, because he thinks like he's just getting angry and angry about this, and he doesn't understand.
Look, it's in the name. We
Yeah,
all
it's in
know
the
that
name.
now.
He is Captain Angry.
Captain Angry.
At this point in my journey, I'd be a little hungry. I would hope
be starving.
I hope that Lee has like some snacks on this plane.
He's got to. There's no way this man does not have snacks and a snack bar.
I keep Fig Newtons and bags of little potato chips in the
God,
corners.
I hope it's
there.
not Fig Newtons.
You don't like Fig Newtons?
I always want a Fig Newton. Like, I always think like, oh, that sounds great. And then you bite into one and you go, that's not the taste I wanted. I always want a Fig Newton, and then it's just not the right taste.
Well, here
They're
on
fine.
my
I'll
plate,
eat them.
answer me these questions 3. Question the first. Should I serve Fig Newtons or biscuits?
Oh no, I'd say biscuits. Give me that biscuit.
Your heart is pure. Sophie asks the albino if he killed her grandfather.
Then
And he asks
slaps
a
him.
couple of times. She slaps him. This dude's an
He
asshole.
calls himself the messenger.
And she gets him back because she's like, your God doesn't forgive murderers.
And
burns
his
them.
eyes did widen at that one.
Like, oh shit. Where it's like, oh, have I been wrong? Like, yeah, it's kind of like weird, but yeah.
It is like he's like, no, but I've been doing this for my sins. Like, no, he has to forgive me. Like, that's
Yeah, what does this guy think? Like, listen, douchebag, you've been murdering people left and right here.
but he's doing it for his God, right?
Yeah.
That's what he believes. And then
Alright.
he's also like giving himself penance with the disgusting shit that he's doing with his body. And it's weird, but that's what he believes.
All right. Langdon holds Sophie back. Again, why does he hold her back? Let her beat the shit out of him.
Yeah,
You know,
should,
what's the
you know,
problem?
Yeah. This guy's a serial killer, all right?
And-
He deserves this.
And then I wrote in a note, wouldn't Langdon feel claustrophobic in this little private jet? I thought that was weird. And then they bring it up later, so they actually...
Yes,
they
but
actually,
there's windows.
Yeah, I suppose, but I
So
still
I'm
think in a
wondering if
private
that's-
jet like that...
Or did she cure him?
Well, that's what they bring up later, yeah. They get a bunch of money for the teacher together. Bishop Octopus says that they'll destroy the Grail, and once the sarcophagus is destroyed, that they need... Because they're like, are you prepared to eliminate
Did
the
we ever
heir?
say that Mary is the Grail? I feel like we were just talking a lot. I don't know if we ever said that Mary Magdalene's uterus is the Grail.
It was the Holy Grail, yeah.
And she held Jesus' baby, and the Grail and the bloodline is the Grail.
Yes.
Okay. Let me just point that out just in case we didn't say it, because we just went on a
there's
couple
a good
tangents
chance.
in
I have no idea if we did or not. Fair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because otherwise people are going to be like, sarcophagus? Like, what?
Yeah, so
They're
they
looking
think
for
that
her body.
They're looking for Mary Magdalene's sarcophagus, and once the sarcophagus is destroyed, Alfred Molina's like, there's no need to kill the heir. So he's like, we don't have to get totally
Because there's
bloody.
no proof.
Yeah, because there'll be no proof, and if somebody says, I'm the descendant of Jesus Christ, everyone's gonna go, well, you're a fucking wackadoo, and that'll be the end of it.
Right. Yeah.
But I guess if you did find a sarcophagus of what is supposedly Mary Magdalene, that would be your proof. Like, it almost would help
be
them
nuts.
more than anything if you
Yeah.
found the sarcophagus of Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, that would be kind of nuts.
He says that he will do it if he needs to, though, in a very eloquent Alfred Molina-esque way. Jean Reno breaks into an air traffic controller's office and breaks the controller's nose to get the flight plan because he's losing his goddamn mind.
Yes.
In
Yes,
the-
he really is.
In the meantime, they try to solve the cryptex.
This is where he's just trying a bunch of words. He's just
Yeah, he's just like fiddling with it, yeah.
Yeah, he's probably just trying words that he thinks would work, you know.
They ask what happened to Mary. They talked about how to kneel before Mary was to remember all those that were oppressed. And so it's the idea is that Mary Magdalene represents all those that have been oppressed and misconstrued and
murdered.
Yeah, and just lost throughout history. And yeah.
Yeah. And the Knights Templar, they're the ones who have to, like, they were the ones who would take a knee for Mary Magdalene, right?
Yes, they were her protectors. Robert gets this idea to poke the rose out of the keystone box, and it comes off, and inside are backwards letters.
Beneath the rose.
Yes, because it's beneath the rose. Yes. And we get the next clue.
My assumption is you could have used that as like a stamp, and then you could see the thing that he pokes out. You probably could have like put some ink on it and smooshed it down, and then you could see like the letters, like it's a stamp, because it's backwards. They're using like two mirrors to read it.
Yeah, he just uses a mirror to like figure it out. It's fine.
Yeah,
you know, whatever.
I'm just saying. It's kind of like, oh, maybe you could have like stamped it or something, because I think it's etched, right? Or maybe it's not. I have no idea.
I do feel like it's a little understated every single time that they like come to a new clue. They're not like amazed that this is real. It's actually
they
kind
of
I
make
think...
a face and then just get excited to like read it.
I guess it's a little bit, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I think that's where National Treasure might have a little bit more awe. Like, I feel like there's a little more wonder every time they find a new clue. They're like, holy shit, this is real. Like, you know what I mean?
Pause on everybody's faces in that one. And this one, it's kind of like a sweep, and then go read it. We gotta keep moving. We're gonna get murdered by monks.
It's 102 chapters, people!
Well, see, again, it's only 400 pages.
So this is where you get your In London Lies a Knight, yada, 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 yada. They need to go to a temple church in London to get to the next clue. Langdon says that they could let Teabing go because they've implicated him enough, and Ian McKellen is like, you know, this entire time I've observed history, now we're making it. I'm on a Grail quest. And he's like, you've given me the greatest night of my life. I feel like maybe he's being sincere in that moment.
I think he's sincere. I think that
even with the twist,
absolutely sincere in that moment. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because I think
this is still an exciting thing for him.
Yeah,
that's like, oh my god, it's actually happening.
It's actually happening, and everything that I've worked for my entire life is coming true. Yeah.
Yes.
The lieutenant talks to Jean Renaud again, and Jean Renaud is like, you know I'm Opus Dei, right? And this is where he confesses to the lieutenant that, like, a bishop called him and told him that Robert Langdon had visited him and confessed that he murdered Jacques Seigneur.
Right.
And he's like, he broke his vows to tell me that I needed to stop him because he thought that he was going to kill again.
Yes.
It's not that Jean Renaud is a part of this conspiracy. It's that he's so devout as an Opus Dei Catholic that he feels like it's his duty because this bishop broke his vows.
Right.
That he has to stop him. Yeah. Not knowing that priests can be just as corrupt as the next person.
Yes, they can.
Go down that list from Spotlight to see that.
Oh, no.
As the lieutenant leaves, because I think the lieutenant was not going to tell him, Jean Renaud thought that they went to Zurich and that there was no extradition, so that they were just, like, fucked. Because that's where they were going. That's where the plane was headed.
Right.
But then, when they find out that they have to go to London, they redirect the flight. As the lieutenant leaves, he goes, like, they went to London. He lets him, like, off the hook of, like, all right, fine, like, I understand this is important to you. I'll let you have this.
Because he's like, I thought you were just going fucking ham, like, nuts. He goes, I don't know if I should let you go after this guy.
Yeah, I think he was not going to tell him, and maybe they would investigate it a different way or something.
Like, investigate him?
There are cops ready when they're going to land in London, because they would have, you know, informed the police.
Ahead, of course.
A boring landing. It really doesn't raise the tension, but there's like cop cars like on the runway getting ready to stop them. Mm-hmm. And then Ian McKellen gets out, and it's just him and the butler. Yes. And he says that he's leaving. He has a doctor's appointment he has to get to, and they're like, well, you can shoot me, starting with the butler. It was a nice little moment.
Of course.
And then the cops are like, search the plane, and of course they aren't there.
Yes.
And Teabing and the butler are in a car, and the butler's like, you know, I could just run them over as a joke. The cop's like, okay, must have been a bad tip, lets them go.
Yeah, they're like waving at them.
I like McKellen saying, the French cannot be trusted, as they drive away. And then we find out that they were in the back of the car somehow.
Yes, and then we get a little flashback of how that happened. The plane, like, swooped around, and as it swooped around, they lowered the stairwell where they ran down, got into the car, then the plane put the stairs back up and swooped back.
Down the ramp and out the door!
Out the door! Literally. And then they hid in the car. It was kind of nuts.
It's kind of clever.
It's very clever, but very nuts.
McKellen says people rarely notice things right in front of their eyes, which I didn't know if that was him being facetious about the fact that he's like,
probably.
a two-face.
It's got to be a part of it.
The teacher calls the bishop for an exchange to happen in London. How did he call? Or did he do that when they were on the plane and we're just getting like a scene out of order here?
Oh, maybe.
Because when would he have called him?
Well, because then it would take us off of the trail of knowing, right? Because it could have happened at any point.
Yeah, that's a little cheap, though. It
is a little cheap. It is a little cheap, but you're right.
McKellen says he was impressed by Robert taking the airplane because he didn't have his claustrophobia. And I was like, oh, they did address it. So, okay, kudos to the filmmakers here. He knows the story of Robert's claustrophobia, and he was treading water in a well at 7 years old all night. So he had a Batman moment. So Robert Langdon, just kind of a Batman. Oh, that would be terrifying. Kid. Yeah. Oh, I would give up. I would.
He didn't have the bats attacking him. He was treading water.
Yeah, so he could have become
He could have drowned. He could have become the ring girl.
He could have become the ring girl. Now that would have been interesting. Now I just want someone to do Robert Langdon coming out of the TV all gangly.
Of a book? Does he come out of a book or like a painting instead of a TV?
Like that,
it's a
that'd
symbol.
be pretty good.
Because it's a symbol. The ring.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. I like that.
Just saying.
Mention that the legend might not even know that they're the heir. There's a good chance, because like, why would you? You're not going to know 2,000 years. I don't know 3 generations in front of me. I don't know who any fucking person is.
Absolutely.
You know, like you might know your great grandparents, and past that, you don't know shit.
Right.
Unless you're like part of these like families of like rich people that like keep their genealogy and all of that kind of shit.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
We come from a family of mutts.
Then
so
you're going to know that.
Yeah, we come from lowbrow mutts, so, you know, we don't have all that.
Oh,
yeah.
fair.
Yeah, we don't have that genealogy of, like, you know, a family crest and bullshit like that.
I'd like to pretend we have a crest.
Yeah, we could have a crest. It's just the shelf life symbol at this point, but, you know. They go into a church with some spooky lighting, and Sophie thinks that the place is wrong because she's looking at, like, the gargoyles and stuff, and she thinks that it's all, like, spooky and things like that. But they're looking for tombs, and then they realize that these aren't tombs, they're effigies.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did a terrible job with the albino. Because he's just loose suddenly.
Yeah, what the hell is that?
And he captures Sophie, and he demands the keystone. And
because he's bleeding so much, he just used that to stop the...
Well, because I don't think...
the stickiness of the tape.
When the twist comes, I guess you could think, like, oh, the butler let him out. But not really, because the twist on the twist is that they wanted to kill the albino too. So I don't know why the albino was able to get out.
I guess he's just crafty like that.
In any event, he captures, you know, he's a super villain, so it's fine. He captures Sophie and he demands the keystone.
He's not quite as white here. He's a bit pinker.
You think so?
He has more color. Yes.
Well, you know.
Very much so.
He was on that airplane. He was in that trunk or whatever.
Got a bit of a tan. He's burnt, you know.
Yeah, this is him burnt. They let him get a big knife, too. He's just got this, like, giant knife, and it's like, where the hell did he get that knife?
I guess they didn't search his body. Like, they didn't take his weapons off of him.
Terrible job with Silas. That's all I'm saying. Just
absolutely
putrid. This, right about here, Rachel, is where I think the movie starts to unravel a bit.
It gets a little confusing.
It gets kind of like, oh boy, here we go with these twists in the plot and stuff.
Yes, because okay, so albino comes in, right? Is threatening her. The butler comes and has the gun, but then points it at Tom Hanks,
Robert Langdon,
instead at Robert. And then we have Teabing go like, what are you doing? And then he hits Teabing and goes, this is over. And I was like, okay, so your butler's in on it.
Yep.
Right? And that's what we think at this point.
Yeah. The albino throws Teabing in the back of the trunk. The butler goes to shoot Langdon and Sophie, but then doves distract him, and they're able to run away.
Yes.
And there's another brief chase through some nuns, and I said it looks like another James Bond movie again.
They just can't help it. They can't help it.
The chases need a little bit of vigor, too. Like, it feels like they're, like, half-baked. Like, there's, like, the chase starts, and then it just suddenly stops. Because Langdon's like, yeah, he's not following us, we're fine. And then he's even like, they aren't going to kill Lee because they need to find the grail, and they need to find the grail. They need Lee's help to find the grail.
Sure, because he's got all that, like, knowledge, I guess.
Yeah. So he's like, Lee'll be okay.
It's almost like the butler is Kaiser Sose. It just feels that way for some reason.
Yes, it's definitely kind of Kaiser Sose. Absolutely. Yes, he is the Kaiser Sose.
But then that's also the red herring?
Yes. Yeah, there's a fake Kaiser Soze. He's Kobayashi at the end of the day.
He's Kobayashi. That's right. But, like, the monk is staring at this guy like, I don't trust you. The entire time.
You know what, though? I thought he was staring at him more like in awe of the fact that he's
finally getting
to meet
him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. And this is where you can definitely see his contacts, though. Where he's got the white eyes. I'm just saying, for your reference.
I just must not have picked that up when I was watching it. I don't know why.
He just looks so pink here that he becomes a little less albino to me.
Well, he was in the process of becoming Vision, you see. So his skin was turning red. And
fair.
Yes, so,
yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The paint just wouldn't.
That's right.
It off.
He was going from it's a decade difference between this and that movie, but I like the idea of him having to go from one set to the other, and he just wasn't able to get all the paint off.
He's just dressed as Vision at some point.
It's like
he's albino in Marvel.
Yeah, it's like the old like he's got to be in two places at once, like Mrs. Doubtfire, and he has
the paint on, but he's got the white wig, and it's like, what's happening right now?
Mm-hmm.
There's a gem in his forehead. I don't know.
I have to get to a library fast.
I just think that's not urgency. That's not like, we need to get to, there's a bomb, we need to stop it, or what. It's like I need to get to a library.
Right. Well, this is what we were talking about earlier too, where it was just like a way for them to go to the library without going to the library.
Right. Get me a library fast.
Yeah.
And she does.
And so she's like, I can get you a library card. Yeah, let me just flirt with this young man over here.
Yeah, they're on a bus. She asked this guy by flirting with him for his 2006 cell phone, which had very, 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 very limited ability to browse the internet.
You know how hard it was to browse the internet on those things?
It fucking sucked to be able to...
Like,
God. You could
had to
do
type.
it, but it was so hard.
Like, if you wanted C, it was 222. You had to hit it 3 times to get that C, and then you had to wait for it to, like, actually... or hit, like, a button so that it would go to the next letter. Pain in the ass. Ass.
For all you kids laughing at us because of how ancient we sound right now, you go to hell. You little bastards. He's trying to use this 2006 data to, like, try to figure stuff out. I thought it was Rose's boyfriend from Doctor Who at first. I was like, what the hell's Mickey doing on this bus?
Not at all. Get out of here. But that would be an interesting crossover. Could you imagine?
Oi, mate. You need to use
Doctor
my phone
Who
for what?
Da Vinci Code crossover.
I can probably get you a better way to do that.
He totally would be the one that they'd ask for, like, the cell phone.
Yeah. I got myself a cell phone, gets all over the place, mate.
I took a picture of an alien last night and destroyed Big Ben.
There's a lot going on right now in London. Meanwhile, the butler is with the albino, and Silas asks the butler if he's the teacher, and the butler says he is. And then the albino has been a great service. And he's like, well, I can also... And he's like, no, you've done enough. I want you to go wait at this house of Opus Dei while I dispose of the old man. And he even kisses Silas, and I guess just to make him, like, feel good about it and stuff like that. So, like a priest would, like a teacher.
Yeah.
So this scene is weird because it's deliberately from a point of view where you can't see who the butler is talking to.
Right, because we don't really get to see who the real teacher is.
Yes, because the butler says he convinced the monk, and he got a big sum of money. He gets tossed this like big bag of money from the teacher.
Right.
And the butler says, "A toast to our success, teacher." I didn't like how this scene was done. It didn't work right. Something about this didn't sit well with me on how they framed it. Because it's like deliberately withholding from the audience, which is fine. Like, you're allowed to do that. It just didn't... I just didn't think it was in a clever way. It felt very old-fashioned or something.
Well, I guess it probably comes across in the text better.
Absolutely.
Because
Again, this is one where
of how that dialogue would have gone.
Yep. This definitely
it's definitely
would work better.
Book scene.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
Langdon's looking up a pope because one of the lines in the riddle is where a pope interned, meaning like this knight was buried in this church and a pope resided over the funeral. But instead of just getting whatever pope it could have been, because they realized that the knight was Sir Isaac Newton, and they're like, okay, well, there was no pope at Sir Isaac Newton's funeral, and all they're getting is Alexander Pope, who was a writer, and he figures it out.
Right.
So he stops the bus. Meanwhile, the butler was clearly poisoned, and he falls over dead, and this is where it's revealed that Professor Lee Teabing was the teacher the entire time. And he calls 911 or 999 since it's London, and calls on Robert and Sophie.
And says, I found a body.
Well, he says that he knows the site of the murderers and that they're at the Opus Dei house, which isn't where they are. And I was like, wait, that's not where they are. Why did you say that, Teabing? But then we find out why.
Right.
Langdon explains that Isaac Newton was a Grand Maester of the Priory, and his life's work offended the church. So it wasn't the Pope, because he challenged things with science at a time when we weren't allowed to challenge a lot of things with science.
We still aren't. But yes, go on.
True. It's a very sad world we live in. So it wasn't the Pope, but it was Alexander Pope.
Yes. This confused me as to where did they come up with Newton? And why are they going to his tomb? Is that something to do with Alexander Pope?
Yes. That's why they're going to his tomb. Because they're trying to find the tomb of Sir Isaac Newton. And it's in the place where Alexander Pope gave the funeral. So, like, they're trying to find that.
Okay, so Alexander Pope resided over Newton's funeral.
Yes.
Okay. It lost me a little bit here. There was a lot in a little bit of time. I could see a lot of people getting confused at this part. Because I was just like, where did Newton come in all of a sudden? That's where I got confused.
Well, because Sir Isaac Newton, he was knighted, so he is a knight. So,
sure. Sir Ian McClellan could have also been.
Yes, Ian McKellen can be a knight, but that's where Langdon's knowing that Alexander
that's just
Pope,
where I was confused.
I think that's where knowing that Alexander Pope was Isaac Newton's friend, and that his work offended the church.
That makes more sense.
All comes together. Yeah.
That's fine. Oh, and the science and all of that, and their friends. Okay, cool. So, see, that was just like go to Newton because of all this stuff. It just felt like it was like too much was happening, and I got confused.
Yeah. Well, there is a lot happening because they have to condense all this very dense shit.
It just felt very quick all of a sudden.
Yeah. They're in the church, and they're looking around, and Sophie...
They're looking for an orb?
Yes, they're looking for an orb. Mm-hmm. And Sophie's superpower comes in handy because there are cane marks in the dust that she sees because she's very observant. And she's like, Teabing was here and alone.
Yes, because it was 2 canes and 2 feet or whatever with a little drag.
Now not to be
she is kind of she works for the police, so I guess
no, that's her superpower.
Bit of a detective. Yeah.
But you're in like a famous old cathedral in London where Sir Isaac Newton was buried, right? Don't you think that there would be other people? Like, why is there just dust? And you can see the cane
There's
prints.
Construction happening.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They're like probably trying to update it or like keep it
renovate.
They're just like renovating pieces of it so that it stays like nice for people to come visit. There's definitely signs of renovations happening because they have like the barricades and stuff up.
All right. No, you got me on that.
Okay.
So T-Bing reveals himself, and he's got the gun now pointed at them. This is where I think he looks way younger than he did at the beginning of his first scene. His like hair is darker. He's got the Magneto face going on. And he looks kind of crazy.
More of a Magneto face. Yeah, maybe that's just all it is. It's just like you can see the whites of his eyes. He's very bright-eyed because he's insane.
He says that he was unworthy to solve the cryptex. Even though at this point I was going to my friends going, it's Apple, isn't it? It's fucking Apple.
Because you finally heard Newton and went an orb and Newton. Apple. Why is it in English?
Why is it in English? Why is it Apple? Make it something fucking hard. Make it an anagram for Apple.
I think that's the whole other thing as well. It's right in front of your face. It's too obvious.
It's too
right?
obvious and everyone overthinks it. Yeah.
Yes.
Sophie is the last remaining guardian, and she's going to be able to solve the puzzle. McKellen says, and his whole point, what he's trying to do is that he hates the church. He wants proof of Jesus' mortality and bring an end to all the suffering that the church has done to people over the centuries. And that's his goal. By revealing the Holy Grail and by revealing Mary Magdalene and the heir, he can destroy the church.
Pretty much destroy religion. Yeah.
So
not religion, but this church, yeah.
For all the people talking about the heresy and the blasphemy that this movie and this book are about, the villain is the one that wants to destroy the church. Let's just make that kind of clear there. I was like, okay, guys, I get that he has a gun on you, but throw something at his legs. I guarantee you he'll fall down.
I would think.
Because he is actually handicapped. Like, he actually cannot, stand up without
He has those canes on purpose.
Yeah. Cops come to arrest Silas.
Who has just finished hurting himself once again, of course.
Was he? Oh, I didn't even realize it. That's hilarious. Of course. He gets into a shootout with the cops, and then he's, running and
nuts.
And he's shooting, and he turns, and at this point, Bishop Octopus has shown up to find Silas. I don't know why. The teacher told him to go to the Opus Dei house. Because I think the goal of Ian McKellen was to get both of them in that house and for the cops to shoot them both.
Right. To come after them.
Yeah. Silas turns, and he accidentally shoots the bishop.
Yes.
So it's the ultimate karma for him because he thinks he kills,
yeah.
his mentor, and the bishop goes, "We've been betrayed." So it's supposed to be this, it's all shot in slow motion and and it's supposed to be this very
dramatic.
I wonder how it plays in the book, because it seems rushed even though it's in slow motion. Does that make sense?
Yes, it feels very fast and slow at the same time. He wails, and then he gets mowed down by the police. Yeah, it does feel but like I said, this whole part feels so like they're just throwing everything at you all of a sudden.
Yep. I could definitely see on a first watch this being confusing for a lot of people, because it's wait, what now?
Yeah.
Who's doing this?
Wait,
why is Ian McKellen the bad guy?
Yeah, wait, why did this happen? Wait, where did this come from? And it's just holy cow, this just feels so quick. Mm-hmm. The pacing just went nuts all of a sudden.
After being fairly slow for the first half of the movie.
Right. Balance it out a little, guys. Balance it out.
The albino then goes for death by cops because now his mentor is dead. The bishop wasn't actually dead, though.
I don't think he goes by it. He just yells and then gets mowed down by the police, like I said. I guess. I don't know if he was doing that intentionally. He was already killing all the other cops. But
That's true. I think he had shot 2 other cops at that point.
Yeah.
He is a serial murderer that thinks that he's doing
is.
God's work.
But then, this is where the bishop makes a mistake. Because he's being stretched out to the ambulance and asks if the monk was alive.
Is
Silas.
Silas dead, yeah.
Yes. Because he goes, is Silas dead? Is he dead? And he goes, who? And he goes, the monk. And he goes, you know him?
Yeah, he says
that's
how do you know his name? I think is what John Renault came all the way to London to catch them. Yeah, and he's like, how did you know his name, Bishop?
And this is when this guy goes, you used me, and the bishop is just like, well, God uses us all, and it's just wow. And he goes, and the bishop was like, you have to get me out of here. You can't let them take me. And he goes, yeah, put him in the truck.
Yeah, you want to put him in the truck. Yeah, because he also says He says, like, Robert Langdon never came to you to confess anything, did he? And, like, yeah, so now he knows.
Right.
So now he knows that Langdon didn't do it.
And he was put on a wild goose chase.
We go back to the church, and T-Bing is still talking, and I was like, I love the idea that he was, instead of, like, just getting down to brass tacks, he was telling this story this entire time. So, like, you just come back, and he's like, and then in 1922, they found another artifact.
Now they have him monologuing.
Just keep him monologuing. He'll go on for at least 12 hours. We'll find a way out of this. He says that the remaining heir was supposed to reveal himself at the millennium, but then he didn't. So now, like, what choice do I have? I have to find this. It's supposed to happen. What they themselves said that the heir might not know that he's the heir. So it's like, all right, which way is it, Teabag? He does his parlor scene where he says he used the Council of Shadows. He won't let Robert talk at all, and he calls Sophie his miracle and the Guardian. And she knows the answer to the cryptex riddle. And he rolls the cryptex to her, and she refuses to do it. He's like, "You're just like the Guardian."
And he says, "She says I don't even know what it is. I can't open it. I can't."
Yeah, like I don't understand how.
It's not that
like,
she
what do you
wouldn't.
Think I would.
It's that she couldn't.
Yeah, and he does a Magneto move here, where he's like,
He does.
Would you let him die for you?
I see how you look at each other with your googly eyes.
Well, I think it's more of just like, would you let another die for it? I know that you're willing to die for it, but would you let someone else die for it in your place? He's like, open it or I'll kill Langdon. And Langdon's like, look, Lee, she can't do it. She can't do it.
And he goes, like, let me.
I actually like, Tom Hanks does a pretty good job here of like, acting with McKellen. Like the two of them do a pretty good job of going back and forth. They do a good job working
together. Yes.
Because I do like the way that he's like, Lee, she can't do it. I'll do it. Just knock it off.
Right.
Like it's actually
like that's not how this works. We all would have opened the damned thing if we knew the answer.
Right.
We were working together 10 minutes ago, and we still didn't have it open, did we?
There was really no reason for T-Bing to reveal himself.
No!
They were already doing what he wanted them to do.
Right.
So Lee
I
lets
thought it was
him,
silly.
Yeah, it does seem weird. Lee lets him try, and then we get the score swelling. It's not Chevaliers de Sangreal. I don't know how to say it, but it's not the end. And it's this fantastic, score swelling. And we get to see Robert doing his superpowers here, because he's looking for these orbs, and he's trying to, do all of this stuff while he's trying to figure out what the cryptex could be.
Statues, and how, all of it fits together, and...
Yeah. He's remembering everything that he's seeing. I like that he's even T-Bing's like, Robert. He's like, shut up. I have to think. Right. He gets into that mode.
And he is trying different things. At this point.
Yeah. And I wrote down the thrilling scene of a man solving a puzzle.
I mean, it's kind of true. How else would you have, display it? Luckily, we can, get his, inner mind workings.
You get some of
Otherwise, it's literally just him, staring off into space.
Mm-hmm.
And putting letters into a cryptex. That's about it.
Pretty much. The score fades out, and he turns and he says, I'm sorry, Lee. And he turns around, he throws the cryptex, and Lee catches it. But it's too late. It starts to leak all over, and it will have destroyed the map.
He didn't catch it, though.
Oh, yeah, it does kind of fall on the ground, doesn't it?
It hits the ground.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess he catches it, but then he falls, and then it hits the ground.
Yeah,
so
it breaks
jostling, it breaks it, right?
Yeah. My life's work is gone, and how could you do this? And he says, only the worthy, Lee. Only the worthy are allowed to break the cryptex. Right. And the police storm in, and somehow they resist shooting any of them, because Sophie at this point has picked up the gun.
Yes!
Because Lee dropped the gun.
And even though she works with the police, it's like, well, they kind of thought she was on the opposite side, but I guess because the cop knows
because Faish said that.
Right. He's like, don't shoot anybody, but we're going to go in, right? Yeah. That has to be all it is.
If this would have happened in America, they would have all been dead. They just would have all been shot.
Probably.
So Jean Reno is like, it's the old man. Arrest him. So that wasn't French. So then they arrest
him.
Arrest him. Billionaire. So then they arrest the old man. They arrest T-Bing. He's a billionaire, so even though he's probably being arrested for
Something.
What would he be arrested for?
Coercion? I don't know.
Conspiracy, maybe?
Maybe?
Or, like, I guess he
did murder...
He did murder the butler.
He did murder the butler.
Yeah, so maybe that, I guess? Extortion,
I don't know.
Maybe? I don't know what they're going to get him on.
I don't know. Something.
Lawyers of Shelf Life,
I mean, I
please let
guess
us
at
know.
this point he did held these two hostage.
Yeah, I guess that's true. He's a billionaire, though, so, like, he's going to be fine. He's going to get out.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
They find the phone on him, so they know that he was the teacher, so maybe they're going to find something to charge him with.
Sure.
Via that, I don't know though. He wasn't lying to Opus Dei necessarily.
I don't know. This is very confusing.
He's yelling back at Robert because he's like, "I can't believe you've done this. I can't believe that you've denied the chance for pilgrims to kneel before her. You could have done this, child. You should have killed me when you had the chance." Thank you.
And then he goes, "You didn't. You couldn't."
Yeah, it's the same thing as like the Holy,
and they're like,
not the Holy
yeah,
Grail. Not the Holy
Grail.
Grail.
They're taking
in
him
Indy.
straight to the nut house, though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because then he starts screaming, "You solved it! The Holy Grail!
Yeah,
they found the Grail. We could kneel before her." And I'm just like, they're totally just gonna take him straight to the nut house. This man is screaming about the Holy Grail.
Yes. Langdon doesn't say anything until the car is gone. He just is like staring him down because I think he does
because he was a friend and I think he was upset.
Yes, and I think he does want T-Bang to know that he did solve it as well.
Because now he's like, screw you, I did solve it. Now you don't get to know what was inside.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do.
And McKellen does a good job of acting crazy because Ian McKellen could pretty much do anything.
He can.
I'll enjoy it. Like it's very hard for him to be bad at anything. He's still good at.
You took the scroll out before it broke. You solved it. Oh, you'll find it, Robert. You'll find it. You know what to do. You find the Grail. You kneel before her, and you set her free upon the world. That man there has got the map to the Holy Grail.
There was every orb conceivable on that tomb except one. The orb which fell from the heavens and inspired Newton's life's work that incurred the wrath of the church until his dying day. A-P-P-L-E. Apple.
Maybe he didn't write apple. Maybe it was like pomme, because pomme is French, or maybe it was in like something other language. He doesn't know any other language.
No,
you're right.
He
I
even says A-P-P-L-E.
Oh, you're right.
He even spells it out.
You're right. No, you're right.
I mean, I guess Isaac Newton was English, so like it could be in English.
True.
Because
So
Isaac
I guess
Newton
it could
is
be.
English.
But who made the cryptex?
Da Vinci, I guess. Well, it's a Da Vinci
Correct.
design.
So
it's a Da Vinci design because they weren't around in the same time.
Sure.
So like he's using a Da Vinci design, I guess.
Right.
It's all a bunch of who's-its and whatchamacallits, and it's all a bunch of
I'm
who's-os.
just saying, apple in
Brilliantly plotted, terribly written.
Could have been Mela, but that's only 4 letters then. That's the problem.
There's another riddle on it. He thinks he knows where they're supposed to go.
Well, what's the riddle? You gotta tell us the riddle. You can't just say, there's another riddle.
I didn't write it down. I don't remember what this riddle is.
Let me tell you what this riddle is. The Holy Grail neath ancient Roslyn waits, the blade and chalice guarding o'er her gates. Adorned in master's loving art, she lies. She rests at last beneath the starry skies.
Thank you for reading it, because I did not write down that, because it's too hard to catch, because it's like all these, it's a rhyme and stuff, and you're like, I'm trying to catch the movie here. Yeah. But they end up going to another chateau. It's actually Roslyn Chapel, so it's another famous place in England, where it's another like old church. She asks,
"You never told me the joke Sonier made of you."
Yes. He said that he was a flatfoot, a cop of history. He just does his day job day after day, and he doesn't do any... I guess he's trying to say, like, he doesn't do any critical thinking on it. He just, like, finds things, and then he, like, yep, that's the thing,
he's
and then moves on.
Well, he's like the policeman of history, is what he was, like, saying. So I guess he's just trying to find the truth, and then he just moves on from it.
Yeah.
Right? So he polices the truth.
Sophie...
Does this have something to do with maybe he's also like a guardian? Is that the whole thing?
Yes.
Is it supposed to be some metaphor that he's also a knight?
Yes, I believe
of the
so.
Templar.
Yes,
All
I believe
right,
it's.
fine.
I believe it's like, yes, he is a flatfoot, but in that way, he is a.
Because he's
a guardian of history.
He finds the truth and he protects the truth. That's his whole thing.
So in actuality, Tom Hanks's character, like Langdon, thinks that it's an insult, but in fact, it's actually supposed to be like, no, he's actually saying it with high regard, of saying like, no, you're a protector.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what Sophie says. Sophie says, like, she thinks it actually means that he's honorable and that we are who we protect or stand up for, and you stand up and you protect history. And then she even says, like, his father or his grandfather was a constable or something like that. So, like, it's actually, like, a tradition to have a true, like, guardian of history or something like that kind of thing. Which I was like, well, yeah, Robert, like, you should have gotten that by now. Like, he clearly called you to protect this secret, so he clearly thought that you were trustworthy enough to be able to do this when it's like this thing that they've kept for thousands of years.
Sure. I mean, I guess he just kind of wrote off the joke part, like, whatever, and just, like, never really thought about it. Like, that just didn't matter. But it does give more reason for why he called him.
There's symbols all over this church, of every religion. There's Jewish symbols, Muslim symbols, Christianity symbols, Buddhist symbols. There's, like, symbols of pagans. There's symbols all over this thing. I wonder if there really are. I think that would be very fascinating to know.
I would love that.
If
that would
this
be
church
so cool.
Is just symbols everywhere for all religions.
Yeah.
Sophie thinks that she's been here before.
She has, like, a memory of having her family here, yes.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned who Sophie is. Sophie's played by Audrey... I'm going to say her name wrong. Audrey Tautou.
Tautou?
Tautou. Tautou. Yeah. Emily. If you've ever seen that movie, Rachel, I have not. Amelie.
Amelie.
Yeah. I figured you might have. I have not. But that's who's playing her. I feel like she's not given a ton to do because, again, she's another Frodo. You have two Frodos in
you
this.
have two Frodos. There's no Sam. Only two Frodos.
I guess Teabing was kind of Sam.
Teabing was also Gandalf, though. They went to Gandalf to get for help, like. But then he became Saruman.
So yeah, she sees her family, and I'm like, okay, are there ghosts here now? And I think they were.
At first, I thought they were
be.
just some like kids and people. No, they're just her memories. She's just thinking.
Well, they're her
about
memories. Yeah. She's remembering when she was a little girl. And then I was like, did the Templars kill her family?
No, it was planned. They were probably coming after her family. Well, that's what somebody says in this that they did. Well,
Robert says even if it was an accident. So I don't think it was the Templars who killed her family.
Oh no! I think it's the others, not the Templars.
I think it was like Opus Dei
the Templars are the protectors.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I think it's them.
So they find this area that's like a basement. That it's the male and female symbol again.
The symbol, the
blade and chalice are on top of each other.
Right, which makes the star.
Pentacle or whatever are on top of each other.
That's not a pentacle.
Oh, I'm sorry. Whatever it's called. The Star of David. Oh no, it doesn't quite make the Star of David, does it?
It is.
It does at
the
the
Star
end.
of David.
Yeah.
The Star of David is two, according to them, is two triangles or the two V's put together upside down. So it's the male and female signs together, and it creates the star.
Yes. Which of course
that
is also
pagan symbol.
Right, and that becomes even more symbolic because the Star of David would be the star of the coming of your next savior, and Jesus and Joseph were descendants of David, and blah 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 blah. So it ties it. It's how a conspiracy theory can be tied in with all making it crazy and fun.
Absolutely.
And the curator doesn't want them to go down, but Robert puts a quarter in the thing.
Well, the curator says we're closing, and he goes, well, can we just have a few more minutes? I'll give you a donation.
Yeah, here's a quarter.
And the guy just kind of still stares at him like, no, we're closing.
Yeah, like that wouldn't happen. They'd be like, no, get out. Like, you come back tomorrow.
He's a younger guy, though, so it's kind of like we'll get away with this.
The curator follows them down, and they go to this private area. And there's stars on the ceiling, and art is all around. They look down at the carpet. The curator does not stop them at all. There's a fleur-de-lis, And they look down in the carpet, and he pulls up the carpet, and there's stairs.
And that's when the curator kind of goes, oh, and leaves.
Because he's realizing that they're like,
we find out what he does. He goes, oh, are you figuring something out? Let me go get the rest of them.
Yeah. There better be some national treasure down here, because if you're going to go down to this basement in this church, I expect there to be a lot of national treasure.
Well, there's probably a lot of information and stories and that sort of treasure. I'm not going to expect gold.
Gold, indeed. There's gold down here.
I mean, they're really looking for a body.
That's true. This whole place has to just smell really bad. This
probably just
basement...
musty.
Oh, just musty as hell.
I don't think it's going to be that bad. It's just musty.
You want to find a candle scent, Rachel. Find candle scent of Mary Magdalene's previous tomb's church basement.
Oh, no.
It looks like a library of files is down here. There's a single rose in a vase, which is the symbol of Mary Magdalene.
Yes. But it's just sitting on the floor.
Right. And that's because she was there, but it's been moved.
But they never put anything but the flower on top of, like, the old resting place, which is nice. A bit symbolic, you know?
Yeah, it's symbolic. I wrote down that there's a little bit of bad acting here. It's just the way that they're, like, moving about the room was odd to me, but whatever.
Well, because I guess they're just kind of, like, reading stuff now. And he's like, I think I have to tell her that she's Jesus' descendant. And he doesn't know how.
I don't think that you should be touching these pages, Robert.
Maybe they are kind of disappointed, too, that it's just like she's not here now. So was it all for naught? But no, he shouldn't.
A ruse?
He should definitely have some gloves on.
Yeah, come on. You're a man of history. You should know that you shouldn't be touching these things. They could fall apart in your hand.
They can. I guess the way that they're stored, though, I don't know. They are behind glass and stuff, and he's moving the glass so that he can, like, pull it out. So
Rachel, I have a question for you. How long were they down there? Or do all of the Priory Guardians live in the same town?
It's the tiny town. Okay. I bet you it's a tiny town, and they all live, like, nearby.
Okay.
And they all know this shit is happening anyways, right? There's no way they don't know that the other men are dead, so they might have been coming together anyways to figure out what the hell we're supposed to do now. And this guy's like, they're here.
They're here.
So if they were already grouped up and having a meeting, they're like, oh, we just got to get to the church.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's my guess. You know, they probably were having one of their pagan sex meetings, and then they had to get to the church.
Okay, yeah. Is this when we find out about the pagan sex meeting? Okay.
Yes.
She came home. She got mad at him one day. She was trying to find stuff about her family. She always wanted to know what happened to her family, which is where it was, like, weird, because it's like, did you have her family killed? Like, why can't you tell her the secret? At some point, she should be allowed to know. Because her grandma knows.
I think that was the plan. But he wanted her to be older and understand the stuff beforehand. So she's not just, like, naive about it. And then just either tell somebody or do something stupid.
Okay.
And to keep her safe.
Sure. If I'm Jacques Sonier, come on, man. You're a secret keeper. Make something up. Say anything. Say anything will pacify her. She just wants to know. Like, come up with a story.
I think he didn't want to tell her a lie. He wanted to be able to tell her the truth later, but didn't want to throw her a lie.
So she Obi-Wan Kenobi'd him, is what you're saying.
I guess.
You know, I told you the truth from a certain point of view. That kind of thing.
I think
about,
it
like,
is.
Your father's dead.
I just can't tell. I have to tell you these things later on because I have to keep you safe because I think your parents were killed and your family was killed and somehow you lived, right? And I had to pretend you were dead too because they find the clipping that says she's dead.
Right.
So he's like, I had to protect you so you wouldn't go looking so they wouldn't find out that you're alive. So I think that's the whole idea.
Yes. She says that she went to, like, a boarding school or something, or he, like, sent her to a boarding school. She came home one day for, like, a weekend or whatever and saw a ritual that they were doing. And it involved fucking, and I'm pretty sure that it's her grandfather in the midst of that. Which, like, you know what?
Horrible.
I see a bunch of men wearing robes and a mask and clearly some sort of
Surrounding
sex
a couple
game.
having sex.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Question.
Yeah.
Again.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Why?
Yeah.
What?
What does this have to do with
pagan thing,
protecting
I think.
Jesus' heirs?
No, I'm serious. I think it's like a pagan thing. It's gotta be, right?
What does this have to do with your job? How does this protect Mary Magdalene exactly?
I don't know.
It felt like Dan Brown was like, okay, I know that the Knights Templar did like a lot of pagan rituals. I guess I gotta to put it in here, even though it doesn't make any sense. Like, it makes no sense, but whatever.
According to this person says the sexual ritual was a pagan thing. Women were seen as a path to the divine, so the ritual
so you
of
had to
sex
fuck 'em.
was a religious experience and not purely just a sexual experience.
Okay.
So they saw it as divine.
All right.
To be a part of the woman.
Okay.
There you go. Maybe. I don't know. Look. It's a little weird. I could see why she ran away.
Yeah. So she says she never talked to him after that. So it's been a while, because she's like in her 30s, it feels like, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what she's supposed to be playing here. I think that the character might be a bit younger in the book.
Potentially. She doesn't
She
look
has-
super old to me.
No, but she'd be like 30.
Oh, yeah.
She's in her she looks in her 30s. Like, how old is the actress? She was born in 1976, so she was exactly 30. So there you go.
Okay, then. They're probably like, excuse me, Sophie, you gotta have a kid. You gotta get this line
Yeah,
going.
like, we need you to be part of this sex.
You need to have some
like,
children?
Like, do
we
you
need to
think
have a
that,
sex ritual?
Do you
So
think Tom
exciting.
Hanks left and they were like, okay, get your robes on, people. Sophie, you just, you're get ready for it. You're gonna be part of the ritual.
Maybe.
Like,
Ooh.
that's disgusting.
Do you think they thought that Robert Langdon would have been a part of the ritual?
Maybe. Maybe that was the whole plan, yeah.
Because he's a knight, right? So
He
maybe
is.
the knights get to, continue
He's
that
not
line.
a knight. Well,
I'm just
well,
saying.
He's an honorary knight, yeah.
He's an honorary knight.
Mm-hmm.
Help continue the line. You gotta
Yep.
keep that bloodline going.
She's ovulating.
Gross.
You gotta get those devil's advocate.
Every time
what's
somehow we get devil's advocate in here.
He asks her to look at this, and there's evidence of the accident. So, question about this too, like if the church did this, and if I guess the brother just ends up dead. It's just an accident because like they wanted to kill all of them, and they didn't kill Sophie, and
Right.
or they for some reason the parents had to die, and they accidentally killed the brother. I don't know.
No, I think the whole family had to die, and she just accidentally didn't.
Okay. So they came
She
pretty damn
lived.
close to losing out on the
Correct.
bloodline. Except for the grandma's still there, so you could do something.
I don't think you can, because she's a woman and a grandma. You're not getting anything from that.
Well, I suppose
She's not having more kids.
You can extract
She was
the
a
blood
man, maybe?
and wait for human cloning to develop, Rachel. That's
Get
what you gotta
out.
do. You have
Get
to,
out
you,
of here.
you
That's
have to-
science.
No.
That's
you have
blasphemy.
You have to extract the blood of every single one. You have to have DNA of all
do
of
you
these
think-
people.
Do you think they just have vials of blood down here too?
I
cases.
assume.
Cases
Yes.
of vials
Yes.
of blood.
You would have to, because what if the bloodline runs out? Then you have to have something just in case science ever comes to a point where you can
They
clone
would never have thought about that. Nobody hundreds of years ago goes, yeah, make sure to keep that blood for cloning.
Okay, for hundreds of years, but for the last 100 years, they would have thought about that. They're getting the
Maybe.
grandma's blood, they're getting Sophie's.
They barely ever
They
think
got
about
the
keeping the blood at
parents.
crime scenes. So I don't know if these people would be like, we must keep their blood. I mean,
Well, if
you know
they're-
what? Never mind. They're
if-
pagans. They do
if-
weird sexual
That's
things.
right. If they're
There's
having
a potential
sex
that they're
in
just like, we just gotta keep
circles,
the blood.
They're
You're right.
keeping the blood.
You're right. Never mind. My
God
mistake.
damn it. So anyway, we find out that her real name is not Sunier, but it's Saint Clair, and her
Right.
line goes up to all these Merovingian kings in France,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why San Real is the two words
blood.
that were royal blood she isn't really guarding the Holy Grail because she thought that she was a guardian. She is the Holy Grail.
Right.
Kind of a lot to take in. I'd
You know
throw
what's
up or
interesting?
poop myself or something.
Oh, it would be very confusing just to think about that, right?
Yeah, sorry, go
Well, I
ahead.
guess she did have a brother, but does the line only go down with the matriarch? So is it only women's line?
Because
On that tree, would they only follow all the women and the daughters versus the sons?
very possible because of the fact that it's the rose line. The rose line is male and the bloodline is, or I'm sorry, the rose line is female and the bloodline is male. So maybe they are tracking both. I don't know.
Maybe. I just feel like they're focusing on the daughters.
Yes,
and it's,
they definitely
it's focusing on the feminine, like the female line from Mary all the way down, and it's like they each had to have a daughter. It just feels that way to me.
Yeah, it's like the Bene Gesserit.
It was her mom's healing hands on her head, and then her grandmother, because he was just a part of the group, and he was protecting his wife, who was the Grail at the time, right?
Yeah, but that would have somewhat go against then the Merovingian kings thing, because it's not like you'd be tracking that through the female line.
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying it feels it's the woman's line.
No, I do like that idea. I think that's probably correct. It's Mary's line, so it's definitely going through that way.
That's the only reason I'm just seeing so many women that it had to have been the woman's line, but I don't know. And then they just kept killing women and witches. So is it always a woman?
The
like
point
that was my
of
whole thing.
But part of the message of the book is like the feminine,
the chalice,
mystique or whatever. Yeah. So like
the
that's
chalice, the womb has to be a woman's womb.
Yeah.
The Holy Grail has to be a woman.
Well, yeah, that's the point.
Well, that's my point too.
Right. So
you can't just bring in a different woman to keep the bloodline going. It would have to be the woman's womb. I don't know.
Okay.
It falls apart a little bit.
So there's a lot of pensiveness, and then they go back upstairs, and there's a bunch of people just there. I wanted Langdon to take out a gun
it was
and
creepy.
be like, "You'll never take us alive." Yeah, because you don't know what
It felt like they were about to murder them or use them in a ritual.
Well, and I think that's maybe what you're supposed to think, because you don't know who these people are. But then someone asks for Sophie, and she's like,
it's a cult.
"Yeah," and it's like, "Yeah, we're the guardians. This is the priory." To Sophie, they are friends. And I was like, yeah, they're going to make you fucking an orgy to keep the bloodline going. I didn't remember this part where it's like the grandmother's there and like the priory is all there with her and shit like that.
Oh, you know what? So she's the grandma, but Jacques, she just says, is the man who raised you. So was he not actually her grandfather? And he was just one of the...
He was just one of the grandmaster.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. But see, it's a grandmother, too, so she's got to be the Holy Grail. I'm sorry, go on.
She is her biological grandmother.
I know!
Yes.
She's also a Grail!
Correct.
Yes!
Langdon gets to think by himself. What are we arguing about? Landon gets to think by himself, and Sophie comes with her new Jesus blanket on so that she looks more like Christ. And
yeah, that's what it is. It's not her going into shock and they're like, here's a blanket because it's cold here.
And you shat your pants and peed a little bit and then passed out. Langdon's like, well, now what? And he's like, the legend will be revealed when the legend reveals himself. And she's like, they got the pronoun wrong and blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, there's no empirical evidence. You cannot empirically prove that she's related to anybody. Langdon says, well, the only thing that matters is what you believe. And this is where I think that, as I said at the beginning of this episode, where I think that the ultra-conservative boycotting this kind of gets the message wrong, because it's fairly positive about Jesus, especially in this moment and especially in the last scene, because Langdon says, well, all the evidence ever has proved, and I don't think it has because we don't have definitive proof that Jesus was around, but
sure,
if you believe in Jesus, all the evidence has ever proved is that Jesus was an extraordinary person. He was an inspiration. Man. Yeah. And an inspiration for thousands of years and billions of people. So you should be able to take that, and if you believe in his divinity or you're not sure about his divinity, his lessons and his teachings are the things that should be discussed and remembered. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
So I think in that way, yeah, blasphemy for sure. But it doesn't give this negative portrayal of Jesus or Mary or any of the apostles or anyone, really.
Right. Yeah. I don't think it does.
He tells her that while he was in that well, he thought he was going to die, and he prayed. He prayed to Jesus.
Yes.
And he says, why does it have to be human or divine? Can it be human to be divine? Maybe he could be a father and still be capable of all the miracles. And then this is where you come to your conclusion, Rachel, because he's like, maybe that junkie won't ever touch drugs again. Maybe she cured his phobia with her hands.
Right.
Maybe all of the descendants do have these abilities to do miracles. Maybe they don't realize it. Maybe it's small. Maybe it's these day-to-day things that, that they don't even realize that they're doing. But if they're doing good and they're helping people, then that's all that matters.
What's the harm? Right.
Yeah.
And she jokes like, oh, so what, can I turn water into wine and water on water and all of that silly stuff.
Langdon asks again, kind of like, are you going to out yourself? Because he's like, would the living descendant destroy faith or renew it? I think his point is like, why would you reveal yourself? Why would you destroy people's faith in Jesus being the Son of God?
Part of me just doesn't understand how, even if she did reveal herself, how he still couldn't be the Son of God. It just...
I agree. I don't understand
that whole thought process breaks down, but maybe that's just the fight with the actual church and how they run things.
Yeah, that's probably more it. It's probably more that the church would collapse, and instead he's like, why don't you use your...
The religion wouldn't. In my opinion, that religion wouldn't, but the church would, because of the lies.
I like this philosophy aspect. I like the way that Tom Hanks plays it, but it's not very dynamic. She knights him.
Yeah.
Did you catch this? Yeah, so she knights him, so now he is Sir Robert Langdon.
So now he is a Knight Templar.
They hug, and then he leaves. But first she tries to walk on water, but can't. And she's like, maybe I'll do better with the wine.
Yeah, she makes a joke. She's like, let me see if I can walk on the water. No.
He says Godspeed, which was a little corny, and apparently
corny.
Apparently got a lot of laughs and cringe at Cannes when this debuted.
I could hear groans happening.
Yeah.
Just, ugh.
And then we get to the epilogue, Rachel.
Yes.
Back at his hotel, he's shaving, he's watching TV. How luxurious. He's shaving while he's watching TV.
Yeah, I know. Freaking TV in the bathroom. Wow. With like a head
oh my god.
Sink. Like, dang. Fancy.
And he cuts himself. Because he's an idiot. Well, I only use an electric shaver, so I can't really claim that, because I would cut myself every day. But he cuts himself because as this movie has progressed, he has gotten more and more of a 5 o'clock shadow, which I appreciate.
Which he probably should have just kept, but, you know.
Yeah, it didn't look bad. It helps his hockey hair.
Yeah, I think it would help with the hair.
And he sees a bloodline trickle into the sink, and he gets an idea. The score kicks in a bit. We get a little shirtless Tom Hanks, which I know all the ladies out there love to see.
We're all just like, when's that towel gonna fall? Like, nobody thought that. Nobody did.
Not a single person thought that.
You're fine.
Not a one. Not Rita Wilson. Not anyone. He looks in his own book, mind you. Oh my god, I'm glad that we both said it.
Yes, in his own book. He gets the map of France out with the bloodlines on it.
And then he's like, Roseline, could it mean bloodline? And it's like,
could it still be beneath that rose?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, yes. Tom Hanks. Exactly.
You guys were right from the beginning. It was still the rose line. Nobody was wrong about that. They were just looking in the wrong spot.
So he steps out and he walks over to the Louvre.
Yeah, he follows the line to the Louvre.
He walks to the Louvre.
He looks like a bum with his hair, so it...
That's true. Walks to the Louvre, seeing the symbols on the rose on the way. Like, there's, like, all the symbols of the rose line as you go.
He's following the line.
Hans' score makes this work. And this is the titular Chevalier de Saint-Réal, the Knights of the Royal Blood, or whatever, is the track. This track in this score is one of the best. It's one of the best movie track scores you can get, in my opinion. I love Chevalier de Saint-Réal. It's phenomenal. And in the behind the scenes, they talk about Hans was talking to Ron Howard. They were doing some sort of like DVD commentary thing for Backdraft.
Okay, interesting.
Hans was asking him what he was working on next, and he said the Da Vinci Code, and Hans was like, that's never gonna work. Like, good luck. Ron was like, well, what kind of, like, what would you do with it if you had to do it? And he was like, well, I'm not very religious, but I would do it in a church, and we'd have to do this, we'd have to do that. And, of course, Hans is like, my agent called and was like, what did you say to Ron Howard? He thinks that you're going to do the Da Vinci Code score. So...
Oh, that's funny.
So he did it, and of course they show it. It's very like, just like Interstellar, just like we saw with that. He wanted to do it in the church. This typical kind of Grail quest, and you think of Indiana Jones, and it's a very masculine horn sound, but this was a very feminine story.
Yes.
So all of the sounds needed to be the heroic feminine. And he was like,
Right.
the heroic feminine is not a typical thing that you hear in a score. And not only that, but then there's all these riddles and puzzles. So he wanted to make the score very geometric. And you hear that in this particular track. It's just this increase of a scale over and over and over again. And it's just phenomenal. Yes. As like a score nerd, as somebody that listens to movie scores all the time.
Oh,
it's perfect. And it almost makes this whole... We can have opinions about like the rest of the scenes and stuff. This scene is very good.
I do really like this scene
of Tom Hanks walking over and the voiceover.
It's all coming together, and
you hear him doing the poem again in his head, the riddle again in his head. He walks over to the Louvre. He sees the symbols, and their CGI zooms into the crypt. It goes below the pyramid. It goes to the point where the V and the chalice and the blade meet, and then you go all the way down. And you see that the sarcophagus is in this crypt at the bottom of the Louvre pyramid.
That's right.
And
because
like
the two pyramids, they connect to make the male and female.
And she's beneath starry skies because the pyramid is all glass, so
that's right.
Above the skies, and then she's surrounded by art.
That's right. And he kneels before her.
Yes, and he kneels before her.
As the knight. Which
is nice, too. He has respect for... Mary Magdalene.
Of course.
What could have been good is if they showed that
he
went.
Her?
No, I'm saying if he went from a non-believer, if he was like atheist or something, and then now he's like believes in Jesus, like this actually enforced his faith or something like that. That would have been a nice arc or a nice thing to learn.
I guess it could have been an arc if you really wanted it to be one of those where it was like a non-believer to a believer. Yeah. But he was kind of a non-believer in the fact that he was constantly fighting. Yeah, he was
a skeptic. He was a skeptic of the conspiracy, but he wasn't a skeptic of religion necessarily.
Right. Well, I feel like he even kind of was a skeptic of that a bit, right? It was just something that he had, like a faith that he was brought up on.
But he kneels. We get the fade to black of the end of the movie because he has found and he has solved the mystery of where the Holy Grail is.
And he probably is going to take that
and he's not going to tell anybody. He's not going to tell anybody.
Right.
No, because he's a guardian now.
That's right.
So
well, he's not
can't.
Really, but yeah.
Well, he's an honorary guardian.
He's an honorary guardian.
If Jesus' descendant makes you an honorary guardian, you're an honorary guardian. I mean, the other thing about it is there's no way that you could actually trace yourself back 2,000 years. You just can't. You cannot do it.
I mean, unless they were that... Possible. I mean, unless they're that diligent, right? And they each... were a descendant of a knight, and they watched and were always a part of the family that was, a descendant of Jesus. That's the only way that could work, and I think that's how they were doing it.
How is there only one descendant from anyone that lived 2,000 years ago?
I don't think there is. That was my point before. Are they only following the female line? Like she had a brother. They could have had brothers and sisters, right? But she was like the eldest of whatever fucking family, and they only follow the one line.
Yeah.
Or are they actually following the other branches as well? Because there would be more.
Wouldn't you?
That was my whole point.
All of them. They're all still the line.
I would think so.
I've seen Game of Thrones. I've watched House of the Dragon. I know that there is a
I don't know if they're that like inner.
Well,
I don't know
It
how
could
like
be.
inner,
Well, that
the
tree's
line
gotta be
is at this
trimmed.
point. I would have maybe she has cousins and they're gonna like introduce her to the cousins that are also of the descendants. I don't know. It would be very interesting to get a little bit more on that, but that was my whole point earlier. I was like, are they only following the female line and not following anybody else in the family? Because like the man is, the point, the knife. He's not the chalice. He's not the Holy Grail. He's not special. He's just a boy.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because he can't carry the next line.
He has the seed. Jesus was the seed.
It takes you to the beginning of the movie where when they were at the Louvre. Mysteries tend to do that, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he did point it out. So
Rachel's like, whatever, I don't care. That's the end of the movie. The Da Vinci Code. Very long and very dense of plot, but we have gotten through it. Which means that we have come to that point in the show after we have gone through the entire walkthrough and we have dissected it point by point, where I will say, Rachel, does the Da Vinci Code have shelf life?
I don't think I would put it on my shelf. I don't think it would go on the shelf, but then again, it's like I have revisited it in the past. I have seen it multiple times. I like the puzzles. I like all of that interesting, like the story and stuff. The front half of the movie is a little slower, and then the back half just feels like they were like zipping through it. So that part was like a little like, okay. I like the whole idea of it. I like the stories and the conspiracy parts, and I like the puzzles and everything. But I don't know if I would say it goes on the shelf.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I think it's definitely a good concept. I think it's a fine little riddle mystery quest, even if some of the riddles are dumb or like rudimentary, but it's a fine little mystery quest. I think it needed something more, or a way to figure out the exposition without doing the exposition the way that they did it, to kind of help with that. Like, I could see Mom watching this and being like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like, I could definitely see that being her reaction to it, if that makes sense. I think that this story, this concept, can work, and I do like the idea of them going on this Grail quest and trying to find the Holy Grail. I like that, and I even like the conspiracy theory nonsense and all that stuff with the church and all of that thing. I think that is fun.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it works better as a book, probably, or as a video game, or as a mini-series.
Sure.
Because then you can expand the
A
characters.
mini-series would be more interesting. Yeah, you could probably get like all that explanations and like actually have some more character arcs going if it was a mini-series. I feel like that might be better.
The amount of hate that it gets online and the Rotten Tomato score and stuff, I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's outright bad. I don't know.
No, I don't think it's horrible.
I don't know if I would call it boring or anything like that. It's fine. It is.
It can be a little slow.
Yeah.
But it's still interesting, and if you find that kind of stuff interesting, you're gonna find this one interesting to watch.
Right. But like, I don't think I ever need to revisit it. Like, I probably will read the book. And if I catch it on TV and there's nothing else on, I'll it can sit there and it can be on. But I don't think I'll go out of my way to watch it. And because of that, it's not on the shelf.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too.
I want to see it redone. I want to see if it can be redone better.
Yeah.
Even if it's in a different genre, even if it is a video game or a miniseries. So I'm going to say it does not have shelf life. But it doesn't deserve the amount of hate it gets. I don't think it does either. Like, folks, if you haven't seen it, you can give it a watch.
You might want to if you're interested in those types of things.
We've spoiled everything for you, so you're not gonna.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, like, it's fine. It's fine. It's a good rainy day watch, probably. Like, it's not something I would say, like,
that's a good way to put it.
Make sure to go out and watch it. But if it's a rainy day, check it out.
Yeah.
Rachel's gonna go check out Angels and Demons and Inferno and see what those are.
I feel like I must now. Yeah. I have seen Angels and Demons. I haven't seen Inferno, but I don't remember either. I've not heard
good things, but I don't remember either of them either.
Don't know if that tells you anything if I don't remember it.
It might. This score, though, slaps. Fantastic. Hans Zimmer, you've done it again with this one. So that's always good. So, with that being said, that was the Da Vinci Code, directed by Ron Howard from 2006. Cross it off the list. It is not on the shelf. We will continue here at Shelf Life with Volume 4. More quests for us to go on, Rachel. More quests. More clues. Oh, what's this?
We're on our
Is this
own
another
quest
clue?
and journey.
Like we have several clues to go. Oh, another clue.
So many clues.
So many clues. I wish we were smart enough to come up with 1,000,000 clues to get to our next show, but I'm not. We have a couple more episodes, though, to go here at Shelf Life for Volume 4. So until next time, I've been Kevin.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is Shelf Life. We'll see you next time. Great. I don't know. I can't come up with any riddles.
I couldn't tell you.
I'm not a riddle. I'm not the Riddler.
Riddle me this.
Riddle me this.
Ask him 3 questions.
Answer me these questions 3.
Charms, demons, omens, codes, monks, ranks, rocks.
Madonna of the rocks.
Da Vinci.